Hello! How are we all doing? I'd love to say everything was fine here, but it's been a bit hairy scary, hasn't it, Mike?
Just a bit.
Yes. My poor machine has seen the new machine, and it's got very upset. So fingers crossed it lasts more than 5 minutes. It's boiling hot. I'm not happy. But apart from that, let me know how you're doing. So who've we got in the chat? Renee! Hello, Renee. Hello, Kim. And Jonathan is with us. Excellent, Jonathan. Have you spent money yet, Jonathan? Or are you saving it for the glasses? We have Graham in the house, who's obviously going to get the glasses, aren't you, Graham? I think Graham's got more sense, just saying. Hello, Carol. What's this? Oh, today is wonderful. This is Kim. Having a bit of a problem with Obsidian backlinks. Need to rewatch some episodes. Well, that's handy, because I'm sorting out the shall we say mess, Mike, that my tracking of the Obsidian thing has been. The Scrivener one, perfect. Devon Think, perfect. Obsidian one, all over the place. But I am in the middle of sorting it out. Bad words were said when I couldn't copy and paste, weren't they? But that was an entirely different story. Hello, Paul. Silly o'clock in the morning for Paul. Hello, Carol. Oh, I've seen some fabulous photos from you this week. Love those. Particularly the one with the... Now, you know I'm not good with wildlife. The white bird thing, I think it was a swan, that had a baby bird on its back. That was one of my favourites, that. Love that. Right, who else have we got? Hello, Deb. And I think I'm up to date. Oh, no, hang on. It's all over the place. Debbie, hello. And Mrs. Yarnold. I hope I've not missed anybody. If I have, shout at me. Road tax, MOT, insurance. Oh, no. That costs a fortune. Didn't we piggyback ours? So we only pay for one?
We do.
Yeah. It was some deal or other from, was it Admiral? The one with the bird. That was another bird.
Yeah, it was Admiral.
Yeah. You merged the two and got a good deal, which, given the price of where I was and what they quoted, was a jolly good idea. Anyway, hello, everybody. So let's move this on so we can see what we've got coming up. Because that side hasn't been eaten yet this week. So fingers crossed it all works. But like I say, it's been a bit hairy-scary. I held my nerve, didn't I? Rather than reboot yet again. Right, so what we've got, loads, as you can see. We've got updates to Raycast and Vivaldi. Nice updates, new features, just saying. Then we've had a request for more detail on the content sprint and particularly why I'm using Canva for it and not the million other apps that I actually have. Finally, I've got round to the Whimsical thing, which is the project management side of Whimsical. Mike's editing a Power BI report, aren't you, on a Mac?
I am.
Interesting. Then we've got some freebies. You'll like the freebies. They'll make your machine feel like new. Then in Obsidian, which could well help Kim, you never know, advanced note-taking, where we are going to glue together lots of things that we've looked at individually into a workflow. The real workflow that I actually use. And we have unboxings. Multiple unboxings. It's been an expensive week, hasn't it? Which was just as well, because the credit card arrived today, along with some brown envelopes. And we don't like brown envelopes. So Mike said, we've got some brown envelopes. I said, bring them up so I can have a look at them. But they were nothing. They weren't a crisis. The third envelope was the credit card bill. So obviously I was a bit nervy with that one. I opened it and I said to Mike, no, I don't think it's going to be that much this month. 0. Yeah, I was surprised as well. But it's all right, Mike. Next month's won't be because I treated myself, didn't I, to a very expensive 1 terabyte card. But never mind. I digress. Let's move on. Okay. Oh, Jonathan's with Admiral as well. And hello, Patricia. Hello. And it was a swan. I was quite right. Good grief, Carol. I probably only recognise a swan, a robin, and a flamingo. I don't think... Oh, and possibly an eagle and an owl, if they qualify. And that would be it. Anything else is just feathered. Although I tried to save a pigeon once, didn't I? We were coming out of church on a Wednesday night. Yes, it didn't end well for the pigeon anyway. We're coming out of church on a Wednesday night and there was this thud. And I thought, what's that? And I turned round and a pigeon had fallen out of a tree. And it couldn't move, it couldn't get up. It was flapping, but it couldn't get up. So I went over and picked it up and tried to nurse it back to health. And then people who were coming out of church were also petting this poor thing. But it died. Sadly, it died. It looked like it had some kind of stroke or other. So he's in our garden, isn't he? We called him Pat. Pat the pigeon.
Yeah.
Yes. So we had to cover Pat the pigeon up with a paving slab because once Lola got here, she could clearly smell him. More on Lola later.
I was just going to say more on Lola later.
Right, okay then. So, let's try moving on. No, it doesn't want to do that. No, you wouldn't, would you? Come on. There we go. Right, we're broadcasting in HD. Last week, it had me, if you remember, in 360. This week, 480. Eventually, I'm going to get to this new one they've got, which is 1080, high bit rate or something. Very fancy. But I can get it if I click it, but you've got to check and click it. So do check and click it. There is a cog in the lower right-hand corner. You know all this by now. It's near the like button, just saying. Right, so let's travel back in time to last Saturday. Things haven't changed since last Saturday, spoiler alert, but it was blindingly hot. It has got hotter since then. That was the downside as far as I was concerned. But Mike woke me with a surprise. Luckily for him, it was a pleasant one. I did not see this coming, and neither did you? He's no idea what I'm talking about here. A week's a long time in Mike's mind, isn't it? It was mail, if you remember, Mike. Virgin were giving us a treat. They were boosting our upload speed. Obviously, this had nothing to do with Brusque arriving in the neighbourhood. Just saying, it clearly did. But yes, they were boosting us from 52 to a claimed 104. To which Mike said, "I'll believe that when I see it." But as you can see, highly technical to get this speed upgrade. Turn it off. Wait 10 seconds and then turn it back on. So I dispatched Mike to do exactly that. And then I ran a speed test. They were as good as their word. I couldn't leave it either. So that was Saturday. That arrived at just the right moment, actually, didn't it? This is because Brusque, who have just arrived with that telegraph pole that's now opposite my office window, accosting my eyes, they're promising one down and one up. So I said it was 20 times faster than mine at 52. So that's why they've doubled it. Well, if they want to multiply it by a factor of 10, we might not consider Brusque. But we're at the point where I've charged Mike with considering Brusque. So we'll see how that goes. But yes, it should be a little bit better. Fingers crossed. Saturday, of course, was a big day. A big day in Manchester, but it was also a big day in London. It was the Cup final at Wembley Stadium. We've not been to the new Wembley, have we? But we both did the old Wembley. Yeah, it's about 20 years now, you know. It's been a while. But Wembley is beautiful, and Manchester departed to arrive at Wembley for the Cup final. If you, I don't know how you could forget, but it was Manchester United versus Manchester City. And that was the high point. Don't mention the match. Literally do not mention the match. The first goal was scored in 13 seconds. It was the fastest ever goal in an FA Cup final. This wasn't boding well because it wasn't for us. This was Mike, an exclusive photo of Mike, 13 seconds into the game. I could say bad words were said, but no, let's be accurate. Bad words were screamed. What's happening here? Bad words were screamed, weren't they, Mike? They were. Anyway, it did improve a smidgen at that point, I think, didn't it? But not much. So, no, we lost. But as Mike pointed out at the end, this is when you know it was a bad day. At least it wasn't a rout, was what he said. This was also pretty much your face. This is the grimace of our former manager that said it all. Now, it could have been the match, or it could have been that to his right, on our left, was one of the Glazer family. And the United fans don't like the Glazers. His face just got worse. And have you noticed he is looking that way on that photo? So, yeah. Well done to City. They were the best team on the day. What can I say? That doesn't mean either of us are supporting their attempt at the treble tomorrow, though. So fingers crossed that never happens. And then, as if that wasn't bad enough for poor Mike, then there was the Tesco order. Apparently, and this is true, the hens are on strike. Eggs have been, would you say, hard come by?
Very.
For a while. I've got exclusive footage. Why? This is the shop steward. heading to the picket line where the hens are on strike. So we've got no eggs. Can't have a full English with no eggs. You also can't have an omelette with no eggs. So on Saturday, we had to share an omelette, didn't we? Because that's a tradition, you see. If you have an omelette, United win. Obviously, it doesn't always happen. Maybe that was because it wasn't a full omelette because we didn't have enough eggs. So we can blame the chickens for this. Yeah. So Saturday, bit of a disaster. Sunday was just a case of knuckling down and getting on with it. Carol will appreciate this. It was a production line of tweets, atomic essays and Twitter threads all day. I'm exhausted, but at least the stockpile is growing. And I was using my own production line is a little bit more virtual than that, with Notion, Canva and Buffer, but more on that later as requested. So then Monday rocked round. I was counting kidneys on Monday, wasn't I? Because we were live on air for the MacBites Live of WWDC 2023. Now, I said we'd already had Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro and the AI voices in iOS, so we could hope for magic. As long as I've got lots of kidneys, I'll be fine. Just a little aside. 7 minutes before we went live, guess what? Notion went down. Again. Look at that. 7 minutes before we started. Which is why I take notes in Obsidian. Because that's happened. Honestly, it went down last Friday, didn't it? About 20 minutes before after hours. Then there was that on Monday. And I think it was the week before or the week before that went down again on a Friday. So all my notes are in Obsidian. Locally kept. So what did we get? We got a 15-inch MacBook Air. Is anybody buying? My last laptop was a 13-inch MacBook Air in 2018. And it's possibly the worst laptop I've ever had since that one of yours, the white one. So I am not going for a MacBook Air anytime soon. If I have a laptop, I think it's going to have to be a MacBook Pro. There was something that was more alluring, and that was the Studio, which got an update. Seriously contemplated that last year, but I wanted an all-in-one. I want one with a monitor. What I want is a 32-inch iMac Pro. And obviously, Timmy, disappointed, didn't get one. There was... Why are you jumping? Don't jump. There was a MacBook... a Mac Pro. Yeah. That was a smidgen on the expensive side. We also got Sonoma. Now, you know we always have our own code names for the latest OS. I'm tending towards Stoma at the moment, aren't I? And enjoying it. Then, of course, there was iOS 17 with lots of stickers. Let's be honest. What was the iOS 17 will be known as the sticker update. All over the place. I'm not impressed. Then we had the iPad OS 17, which was basically wallpaper. When they're talking about wallpaper, you know they've got nothing else better to say, don't you? So I think he opened with wallpaper. And I'm like, why? Because what's on the lock screen, I only ever want to see as I'm trying to get into it. And what's on the actual screen, that's a bit garish for me. But, you know, your taste may vary. Mine's a kind of purple colour and has been for years. So let's leave it there. Notice this was from the keynote. I hope nobody missed 9:41 on their bingo cards. I know it's tiny, but it counts. Monday the 5th of June, 9:41. Obviously, one more thing, which it's not VR glasses, is it? It's spatial computing. This is why you don't need a monitor, apparently. But as I pointed out on Monday, it reminded me of Doctor Who. And then as I was looking for that picture, I thought, oh, the Pro model. So this one will be coming out for Christmas. Am I buying? Probably not. Probably not. I can see where they're heading with it. It's not just glasses to do one job with. It's a whole new paradigm of computing. In other words, it's going to slow me down something chronic for years, like an iPad. So I'm going to leave that alone. It took me to Tuesday when there was only one thing to be done. And that was go and frighten myself witless by speccing up what I fancy. I didn't even spec this as high as it could go, trust me. And I still managed to get it to £7,199. Gulps. Although it could deliver the 14th to the 20th. Yeah, as long as I could get it on the credit card. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. But having done that, I thought, well, that was 2 terabytes SSD, by the way, and 192 gig of RAM. But then I thought, well, how much more expensive could the Pro be? I put the same in there, I think. Or did I go for the 8 terabytes of storage on that one? I don't think I did. I think I went for the same. That was even more frightening. 11,999. Do bear in mind that both of those needed monitors, by the way. And I need 3 of them. So, I'm going to need another credit card, Mike, possibly 2. Should I ever... No, it's not going to happen, is it? Let's be honest, it's not happening. So while I was doing that, Mike was starting off his global tour, his Excel global tour. This time it was the London user group. That one was quite early, wasn't it? It was the next one that was very late. So Wednesday rocked around, and I can't get used to this on a Wednesday. It was the Captain Table Mastermind. Honestly, it was a topic I didn't think I'd be interested in. And there I was, sat glued. It was really good. So Carol, if you didn't see it, because I didn't spot you there, it's worth watching the replay. As usual, minds were blown. While I was doing that, Mike decided to take Lola out lest she bark and cause a scene. So he took her out and she got excited. Daddy burst her bubble in telling her it wasn't actually a panda and a new buddy, it was a box. But you can see Lola there in her silhouette. You can't actually see her disappointment, but trust me, it was palpable. You can also see Mike taking the photo as well. I think that's rather cute. I'm going to need one, Mike. When he got back from there, then his world tour continued, heading off to Toronto for the Toronto user group, which was late, wasn't it? That didn't finish till after midnight. It was getting worse. I didn't think it could get worse, but it got worse. There was something called an amber weather warning issued. No idea what it actually is, because it's usually raining here. But I can actually tell you for a fact it wasn't good, because the computer decided it wasn't bothering, turned itself off. Eventually managed to turn itself back on again, and then had the temerity to say it was restarted because of a problem. And I thought, you're not kidding. The problem is it's too hot. Just saying. Industrial fans on, but obviously not while we're broadcasting. We have one tiny fan on while we're broadcasting, but that's pointing at the computer, lest it have another go and fall over again. Oh, yes, and then I went to check. Oh, you'll love this. Royal Mail. Royal Mail missed a trick in blaming the weather for their latest delivery fiasco. You'll notice, currently unable to confirm the status of it. But please try again tomorrow. That's great tracking, isn't it? We don't know where it is. We don't know when we will, but try again tomorrow. Just keep doing that. So, bad words were said, but it was all right because Lola was out, so she didn't hear them. Lola trumped both the weather and Royal Mail with her antics, with what could only be described as Monty Python's squirrel. It wasn't quite as perky as that one, was it, Mike?
No.
It was...
It was pining for the field. It was dead in the gutter.
And what did Lola want to do with it?
Bring it home for me to cook.
Now, Mayer did the self-same thing, to be honest, with the duck, didn't he?
Yes.
But at least in his defence, the duck was alive. It was on Lim Dam at the time, swimming, and he spotted it, dived up a pier. Luckily, we were on the other end of... In fact, I had hold of him at that point, didn't I? Because he's upended me before that on the same walk, do you remember? There was a family walking past, mummy, daddy and 2 kids, as he decided to run round me, wrap me in the leads around my legs, and then pull away, and I went on the floor. Very inelegantly. So he was already in trouble before he saw the duck and ran after it. But no, Madam wanted a dead squirrel. I said, Mike, you'd never cope with a cat, would you? Because they just bring them in for you.
True.
You don't want to be doing that. Friday, it's even worse. We had another amber weather warning, so I looked after the computers. But then we got another one that's an extreme heat warning. I'm not sure of the difference between the two, but we're confirmed it's going to be 90 at the weekend. Which was when locally we got a yellow thunderstorm warning. I don't know what that is either, but have you noticed they're all colour-coded? If you think I'm joking about the imminent thunderstorms, apparently not. Here's the official UK weather site. Now you'll notice this is for tomorrow. It just about touches Manchester in the middle there. But it's carrying on to Sunday, when pretty much it's covering everything. Have you noticed it's missed the Isle of Man? And why is it stopped at the Northern Ireland border? You do wonder, don't you?
That'll be Brexit.
Yeah, that'd be right. I want to live in Aberdeen. That's where I want to be. And so serious. Hang on, you're moving again. The UK Health Security Agency, I didn't even know we had one of those. But apparently they issued this, which was so important, the police decided to retweet it. You could not make this stuff up, could you? So I think after all that, it's fair to say it's going to be pretty warm this weekend. Luckily, we've got 3 industrial fans and 2 smaller ones, possibly more than 2 smaller ones. And Lola's okay as long as she's not in the extension, which is where she wants to be because that's where she likes to be. But she's not going to be there. Right. Peter says some of the temperatures in some areas are going to be over 30. The problem isn't really the temperature, because we went, not on a holiday, we went to cover a beach soccer tournament in Brighton. And I thought, I'm not going to enjoy this. You know, it's the coast and it's sunny. And it was sunny, but there was a lovely breeze. We have no breeze in Manchester. None. It's either raining or it's boiling hot. There's nothing in between. Nothing, just nice. So I'm quite happy. Snow, fine. Rain, fine. Anything else, not fine. So maybe I should report it to the police and they can put out a tweet to say how disappointed I am in the weather. Oh, let's get on with some tech. I don't know why my slides are moving on at an alarming rate today. Probably the keyboard's upset. Right, there is an update to Raycast. It's a tiny update. In fact, they've updated 3 times this week. So it is the 1.53 update, but I think we're on 0.2 or 3 of it now. Now, if you are unaware, Raycast is a launcher and much more besides. The 2 key features that they've added to this version, one will appeal to Carol. Because I know you've got the AI stuff in it. The AI stuff is a pro feature, which I haven't gone for yet. Notice the yet there. Just saying. Got to drip feed Mike all these subscriptions, haven't I? But what they've added is placeholder text. So you can add placeholders to your... So, for instance, if you wanted it to translate it, instead of having to instigate the translate command and then copy and paste it in, if you've already copied the text, you could say the clipboard text, or you could just select the text. You wouldn't even need to copy it and use the placeholder for selected text. So if you are pro side of Raycast, you have that feature. Everybody gets emoji improvements and Unicode symbols. So let's go have a look at what those improvements actually are. So hopefully it's going to play ball with me. Right, so I mentioned that you could... Why have you stopped? Why are you not doing a thing? Ah, there you are. Right, you can get to the emojis by typing emoji. Like that. But notice it now says search emoji and symbols. So that's changed slightly. But I also said, this is a couple of weeks back when they added this feature, that there is a shortcut to do this in macOS. So this could be considered to be superfluous to requirements. But it's faster, much faster, and it's much more predictable where the window will open. So I decided to create a shortcut key, which you can see next to the word Raycast there, which is all 3 modifiers at the bottom of the keyboard and the space command. That is faster because if I close that down and I use that shortcut key, it goes straight to Raycast. Oh, come on. It's like playing whack-a-mole, this. If I do it twice, it'll disappear. Right. It goes straight to the emojis. Now, the first 2 rows that you see are your frequently used ones. So if I were to choose something else that wasn't included in there, it would add it in the top left. So it would be the last one that I'd used. And that's how it works. They have added extra features to this. So the first thing that you can do with this is that you can favourite emojis. So if there's one that you are always using, so for me, I use the green tick quite a lot. Why has my mouse disappeared? Oh, you're over there. In you come. Right, so if I'm using the green tick a lot, I can go into, and that brings up the actions down here, And you can see in there, if I scroll a bit, you've got all the options here. But at the very bottom, you have this option to pin the emoji. So if I click that, it will move that one. It will promote it to the pinned area. Now, you don't see the pinned area until you've got stuff pinned. So that is how you pin emojis. Now, it's actually faster. So we'll go in and we'll get the one with the eye rolling. I do a lot of that. If I go in there, you can see when I'm right-clicking on it, it is bringing up the actions. So rather than use the mouse, if you remember that you've got Command, Shift and P, that will actually do it for you. So let me come out of that bit and Command, Shift and P, and it says pinned at the bottom and it pins it up there. One thing to think about is, if you've got emojis that you use frequently, and they are, you're never going to change them, when you add them to this, add them backwards, and then the one that is the most commonly used will be at the left-hand side, which will be faster to get to. Another way to use the pinned emojis is if you're working with, so when I'm working with Notion and I'm using emojis to represent the pages, I might be working with like 3 constantly for three hours. Then I could pin those to the top and I could easily get to them there. Another new feature that they've added is up in the top right here, it says all. But you can see that that is showing you categories. And change the categories with Command and P. You can search in there for categories. So you can scroll the categories like flags, or you can type, if you could type like that, and press enter. And now when you're searching, you're only searching flags. And then Control and P again, move all the way back up and search for all. It's a bit slow at the moment, but it's getting there. So that's another feature that they've got. Now, completely new, which will give you different features in here rather than the standard emojis, is searching for Unicode characters. Now, you might think, I don't know what a Unicode character is, so therefore I'm never going to need one. But you might, and I certainly do. What I've done with these in the past is have them on text expansions or available to copy and paste. There is also a keyboard shortcut for putting in the Apple symbol. But right now, if you just type Apple, the first one it offers you is actually the Unicode symbol for the Apple logo. So when I'm typing manuals and typing instructions, if I need the Apple logo, there it is. Another thing that I use frequently, and in fact there's 3 of them, is the Command key, the Option key, the Control key. In fact, you've got Shift and Tab while you're at it as well. So if I want, now I just need to type, no, hang on, we're at the wrong place here. Let's come out of there and get back into it again. So I am actually at the emojis. And in here, if I type Command, it gives me the Command key, and just pressing enter inserts that into any standard document wherever you are working. So that's the Command key. Obviously, Option works exactly the same. Now, Control is slightly different because its actual name is not Control. If I do type Control, it does come up, but it happens to be number 3 and not the first one. It's actually called the Circumflex. And if you type that in, it gives you the one result that you're looking for. I'm assuming, although I haven't checked, that Shift works. Oh, it doesn't. Should we try Tab? Maybe it's called something else. I'm not seeing the Tab key there either. To do this, I will need to know what they're called. But that is searching for Unicode characters. So who thinks that would be useful? I know it would be useful for me. Mike will never remember a shortcut key to get to the place in the first place, will you? No. So you'll have them somewhere and you'll just copy and paste them, won't you? He's glowering at me now. So is that good or bad or indifferent? Let me know. Right, let's head back into there. Next one is another update. Another update. Why are we not moving? Because you don't like me, do you? And then I'll click move and you'll move twice. Right, Vivaldi update. This was quite a big one in terms of they put out press releases, which they tend not to if it's just like a point release. But there is a reason why they have done that for this one. So as you know, Vivaldi is our favourite browser. It is absolutely perfect in every way. 3 features that they've added. They have improved the workspaces, which I demonstrated with the 6th release. So workspaces are where you create discrete areas where you have a range of tabs, and you can navigate between them, but you're not overwhelmed with 50 tabs. You could instead have 10 spaces with 5 tabs in each. It does make a massive difference to tab overwhelm, trust me. I've not had more than the standard tabs open since I organised them into workspaces. Whereas previously I would get to a point where there would be that many tabs that I would need to sort them out. I will demonstrate this. They've also added the ability, which I was getting quite giddy about until it didn't quite work the way I wanted it to, but you can copy links to tabs. So as you can see from that screenshot, whether they are in tab stacks or workspaces or just standard tabs open, you are able to select multiple tabs and then copy the links to them. Now you can also save them as sessions and all kinds of things, but the new feature is to copy the links so you can share them with people or just back them up for yourself. Just copy them and paste them somewhere. So again, I will demonstrate that. And the other thing that they added, which sounded bizarre to me until I twigged what they were talking about, was accessing what they're calling Bing Chat. And I was like, Bing Chat, is this like WhatsApp? No, they mean AI. And the reason that that is a big issue is because the way a browser is identified is by a string, a character string of saying, hello, I'm Chrome or I'm Opera. And the problem is that unless it's identifying as Microsoft Edge, you can't access the AI. So they fixed that by cheating. So you've got AI access that you wouldn't otherwise have. Possibly, I think they've just allowed Chrome, but if you're using any other browsers other than Edge and Chrome, until Vivaldi introduced this feature, you weren't able to access it. So let's go have a look at all of that lot. Right, where is my browser? Right, I'm trying to make do with one browser so the machine doesn't go absolutely crazy. So let's have a look at it. Come on. Right, going into demo, so now I can't see the chat, but there we go. We'll have a look at that. That'll do. Right, so what I've got here is a demo workspace. We'll be looking at this shortly. But up here, these are my workspaces. So I noticed when I created these, I thought, well, I'll have an admin one. Now, the one tab up here is basically something that's not a workspace. But it kind of becomes a workspace as soon as you've got workspaces. It's just unnamed. It's where tabs live if they don't open in a workspace. The rest of these are workspaces, but my issue was I thought, well, I'll have an admin one, and I'll have a MacBites one, and then I'll have a Build a Second Brain one, and then I thought, hang on a minute, I use Ship 30 more, so Ship 30 should be above Build a Second Brain. But the problem with that was I had to delete it and start again because you couldn't move them. Obviously now, the big change is so now it doesn't matter how they were created, you can drag these around and reorder them. I mean, it matters to me, but your mileage may vary. I think it's going to depend how good the icon is that represents it. So to me, the second one would be MacBites, but I've made that an orange circle because that's MacBites colour. Ship 30 obviously has an icon. Build a Second Brain's a brain. YouTube I tried with a clapperboard. You couldn't see it because I've got a dark theme, so I decided to use the red dot. The social is a red post box, and this is my demo, so I just made it a red circle so it stood out. But that's the new feature. I mean, that was a gross oversight in the first place, but it's there now. So that was the first thing. Here I've got 4 tabs open. Now you can select multiple tabs in here using the command key. So the one that was selected stays selected with the, well, not marching ants, but an orange border on it. Right, and you can make multiple selections. So I have selected all 4 of those. And you can now right click on the tabs and you have the option to copy the links. So rather than going through these tabs one at a time, you've selected the whole lot. Now they're on the clipboard, I will bring something in so I can just paste them and show you. That's not right at all. Not right. Why did you not copy? You are now playing with my mind. You definitely saw me copy that. Copy links. Or are you just on a go slow? let's move this out of the way and try again. It's not copying them. I have no idea why it's not copying them, but it's not copying them. Vivaldi is active. I am right-clicking. I am saying copy. This worked in rehearsals. We say that a lot, don't we?
We do.
Oh, look at that. Right. I think that was about the fourth or fifth time. Let's drag that on. And there you go. Now, I've got a couple of issues with that. Why they're numbered. I don't like that. I guess it kind of makes sense so you can see that you've got 4. But if I'm doing something with that, it's much more likely I'm going to want the link and I'm going to want to paste it somewhere. Maybe Notion or something like that. So I thought the numbers were not required. Obviously, it would be handy just to have multiple links. But that's what they're offering you. That's not how I do it. And I do this a lot. So let's get that down there. You'll notice that I prefer very, very minimal. This week I've taken away, I delight in taking away 2, well, even 1. I delight in taking away icons that I think I'm not going to need that anymore. I do have extensions. I have quite a few extensions, but you never see them. I can access all of those through the command palette, which is Command and E. So the only one that gets space on my toolbar is Copy Tab Info. Now, you might think Copy Tab Info is doing more than just copying the links, but that's what it's actually doing. So I can copy in various formats here the active tab in the current window. So that would be the Canva tab. But I can also do all the tabs in the current window. And you'll notice that I can do them not just as text, but I can have ordered lists and unordered lists under Markdown. And Markdown is what I use. So if I want those 4 links and I want to pay taking app, and be that Notion or Obsidian, doesn't matter. When I paste these in here, in fact it's done a lot because I've got different workspaces open, but I want it in this format, where I get a dash at the beginning and they are markdown links. That's what I want in there. So that's what I use instead. And it's the only one. We can actually close that now. It's the I can't access successfully with a shortcut key. So that's why it's the only one that's allowed in there. But if I wanted just one of these, so I just want the link to say this content sprint here, but I want it in Markdown format. Then what I would do, so I'm bringing that back so you can see what happens when I paste it. Let's get rid of that. Right, in Vivaldi, I have a shortcut key. So I've just used the shortcut key. It's written in Keyboard Maestro, and it's taken just that in the right format. So that means if I only wanted the current tab the entire time, then I wouldn't even need that extension. But for multiple tabs, I do need that extension. But that's what I do instead. Right, so that was that. The other thing is Bing AI. So let's get rid of that. So prior to this version, 6.1, if you were to type in here, chat.bing.com, it would unceremoniously dump you out and say, who are you? What are you doing? You know, you need Microsoft Edge. But, and it seems to be getting there, it's a bit slow, but it's getting there. You can see it's gone to Bing. It's got me logged in at the top. I've no idea what I've got 27 points for, a bit gamification. But you have the AI at the bottom. Now, it's more in terms of searching Bing. So the reason that Bing was useful, as was Bard from Google, was when ChatGPT didn't have access to up-to-date information, which it now does. But this is free, and now it works in Vivaldi. So Vivaldi put out their press release to the effect of, we used to use user strings, and now we're using user hints. So basically when you go to Bing, instead of Vivaldi saying, hello, I'm Vivaldi, it says, hello, I'm Microsoft Edge. And it believes it, and that's how you can get access to it. So instead of having to have multiple browsers, you can now access that in Vivaldi. I must admit, I did try that, and I also tried Bard. and I had to have Bard open in a different browser, not because it didn't let Vivaldi have access, it did, but I needed to be logged into a different account because it wasn't available on enterprise accounts. Then I saw this little message that was it's available on enterprise accounts, and I had to go and do magic in the back end. We did that, didn't we? Because you had to do it as well. And that enabled it at the enterprise level. And then as a user in that enterprise, I could get access to it. So now all my AI can be basically together in one place. So do we have any questions on that? They're all the new features in Vivaldi this week.
We have one question.
Where you
Renee
go.
says, can you design icons for workspaces yourself?
Your options for workspaces, here to the workspace, and you click on the icon, you can paste any emoji in for a start. And there's also a range of icons that you can choose. But unless it's considered to be an emoji, and you could paste it in there and it would work, then not yet. But I would suspect that that would be coming because you now do have the ability to edit any icon in Vivaldi. So if you can't do it yet, I would imagine it will be with us shortly, because people are bound to want that. Because as you saw, I don't know if you noticed, but I sent a text to Mike. So in my emojis, yes, there it is. I'd sent a text to Mike and it was something about the dog. So I wanted the paw prints, which is this one down here, believe it or not. Because I've got the dark interface on Raycast, I can barely see the paw prints, and the ZZZ, not much better. I can see that if people are using a specific theme in the problem that I'm having in Raycast. So only a matter of time before that happens, Renee, I would guess. What else have we got?
That's it.
Right, okay
Ken
then.
says, best plugin ever. Thanks for telling me about it, Elaine.
Oh, no, see, Ken had access to another one that did what my shortcut does, which only grabbed one page. But the power of that is grabbing multiple pages. It is. I use it multiple times a day. I really do. That's why it's the only one that gets space on the bar. The only one. Right, let's move that out of the way and get back into here, find out what's next. So, just a recap, actually, of what we've had. Why are we not moving? Right. Workspace improvements. There is scope to improve them even more, but what I will say is they do seem a bit more solid than they were before. I created a workaround, which I'm going to share next week in Obsidian, because when Vivaldi crashed, which it did twice, I know I shouldn't use the point zeros, but I can't help myself. I lost my workspaces, and I'm like, what tabs were open? So I have got a workaround for that, but they are improving it to the point that it does seem more reliable now. And you've got the option to copy the links. I think if you just want to send them in an email, you probably don't want them in Markdown. But to be honest, I'm not going to use that feature. I'm going to stick to the extension that I've got because I'm used to it. I hardly even have to look. I know exactly where the option is that I usually use. So I'll be sticking with that. And the other thing is chat.bing.com. If you do want to use the AI, you now don't have to go out and do it in Edge. Don't forget, you can sign up for beta access to the iOS version of Vivaldi, which is awesome. I just wish Apple would get off their derrieres. There's one issue, which is you can't make it the default browser yet. And I don't know if that's because it's a test flight thing. But Vivaldi have said it's up to Apple to fix that. And I have been refreshing every day, waiting to make it my default. Because most of the time on an iOS device, you're not going to a browser and browsing. You're tapping somewhere and it's going to open a browser. And it's still opening Firefox, which is making me grumpy. Because Firefox has turned into an absolute menace. It's constantly saying, I've updated this. Do you want to enable that? No, just shut up. Just be a quiet browser and leave me alone. But it's got that many prompts in it now, it's unusable. So when they add that will be amazing. But get signed up now. They are letting more and more people in if you want to try it. And in the press release, they kind of mentioned it in terms of it wouldn't be long before it was available. And I thought, well, okay, the test flight's fine. It's working. By comparison to the features in the Android version, it's got a way to go. Obviously, the Android version's been out almost 2 years, I think. But to think it's going to be available quickly, get your hands on it early anyway. But if I have to wait until it's out properly before it can be made a default browser, then bring it on, because I need that. Need it. Right, okay, so the content sprint update. So last week I introduced what I was doing, which was, I won't say it's a challenge, although it is a challenge, isn't it, Carol? It's a 3-week content sprint, supposedly on Twitter. So this was where I was at last week with it. I think I'd got to about 5 days. Anyway, in relation to what I've been posting on Twitter this week, I've had a couple of people say, can you tell us more about that? Both in terms of how I'm doing it in here in Notion, what I'm doing with it, and in terms of why I'm using Canva extensively to do it. So that's where I was last week, but I decided at the end of week 1, where everything was on Twitter, that it was about my LinkedIn and a Medium. So what I've done this week, I have put content in it, but I've deliberately left some of it in a bit of a state so I can show you how I would actually organise it and sort it out. So, going to bring my browser back on and go into, did I do it in here? I did, same place, awesome. So this is what it looks like this time this week. You might think that looks the same. That is week 1. So obviously week 1 is done. I have added a couple more fields to it, but I've deliberately not changed these views. I'm going to do that now live with you. So the whole of the first week was done. And I said that this is a table. It's not a master table. Well, it is a master table. It's the only table. I didn't do what I usually do with make a master table and then link to it and stuff, because I didn't want to make it more complicated, because not supposed to be in Notion. And if you remember, it was a secret. We're not telling Dickie and Cole at all. Apparently, I don't know how they do it. They just seem to tweet and they don't keep them anywhere. I can't do it. I can't do it. If I don't have some organisation, it's not going to happen. So that's why I built this. But I determined I was going to build it fairly simply. I wasn't going to stress over like trying to automate the week. Tried to do that, didn't like it. So that's what I did with that. That's week 1. Now, what I added since was a notes column. I added the notes column and I wanted it in the display that we're looking at now, the table view. Because when it came to Monday of week 2, little issue, I got confused. So I had to leave myself a note, and I thought I don't want the note buried inside it. So I up, and you have your metadata at the top. So I could take it away from the table, but still leave it in here. But I decided I wanted to see the notes. What I don't particularly need to see is the TypeShare URL. Not in this view, because this view is for week 1. None of these were posted from TypeShare. So it's superfluous to have that over there. So I can go into there and hide. That doesn't delete it. It's still available in the metadata. We open that up. It's still there. It's just not bothering me in this view. So that's one thing that I would do to tidy that up. Right, at the end of that week, when it came to week 2, I needed a week 2 view, which I made based on this view. But in week 2, we had to add more content. So if we look at what is in week 2, you can see I've got much longer titles for some of these, which don't need to be that long. But that one was an atomic essay. So what I've done with this, it's very similar to week 1. You'll see over here I do have the TypeShare URL. But because they're so long and it's already scrolling sideways, I'd probably have that here as well, because I don't actually need to click it from there. I just hide it in the view. You'll notice in my notes, this was why I was adding a note. There I was on Monday night, patting myself on the back. That much I was breaking my arm, thinking, oh, I've got my atomic essay ready for tomorrow, until I read the instructions and realised it should have been gone out on Monday. And I thought, well, it's too late now. It'll have to go out on Tuesday. So if you look at this, as well as the tweets, there were 3 atomic essays that had to go out. They went out at 11 o'clock, although the first one should have gone on Monday, but no one will notice, will they? No one will notice that. So that went Tuesday, that went Wednesday, that went Friday. So they should be Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Right, what else I did in here, I left some of these so I could just show you what I was doing with them, which I marked them as scheduled when they're ready to go. Obviously, up to all of today's have now gone. So whip through here and I can change these to done. But one of the recent changes, changed a couple of months ago, was you can, if you are in there, and that one is done, you have the option with this to pull it down. Like that. And that way I can do all 4 at once. So a tiny improvement, but useful, because otherwise you're in and then you're looking for done, and you're in and you're looking for done. Obviously, there's the other way to do that, which is you go over here and you could select these. And once you've got them, you can then choose up here. So status would be 1. You can go in and choose a different status and do it that way. But we used to have neither of those options at all. So thankfully they are now there. So that was it for that. So what else did I do in here? I then decided, so that's what week 2 looks like. Obviously week 3 is pretty blank. It's got in what I need, all the tweets. I've got this feeling that Carol sat there and she's done week 3, you know. And you can see I've written nothing. That's Saturday's job. But this is what a blank week would look like if it was a full week. So we've got all the tweets, 21 of them, 3 a day. We've got the atomic essays, 3 of them. And we're adding a Twitter thread, which is to go out on, I think that's Tuesday. So I better make sure the atomic essay's done, or they'll be clashing with each other. So that's an empty week, and that's what that will look like going forward. I did say that I had created a view that was just atomic essays. So those were the atomic essays. And I also created a Twitter thread view, which obviously that's week 3, so I've not done anything yet. I did say that I'd created a calendar view, and there wasn't much to see. Now there is. But the calendar view is more like, oh, aren't I clever, rather than being in any way, shape or form useful, because it's just overwhelm. But that is what the calendar view would look like. But, you know, if you're trying to impress somebody, I've done all of that. There you go. That's your calendar view with all of the content. I did start to panic that I had one missing on that day, but no. I've still got my 3 tweets, so no, that is right. It just looks weird. So that was the calendar view. Right, the new stuff that I've added this week was LinkedIn and Medium. Now, I took a decision. I was not going to try and do everything all at once, because it's enough, as you can see. It's more than enough. But I did decide I would add LinkedIn into the mix. So I created the view, which is LinkedIn. And these here are the first week of tweets. So what I did with them was I duplicated them, and then I changed the type to a LinkedIn post. And then, as I went into the first 5, so I'm only posting once a day to LinkedIn, but I expanded these, because I can have more than 280 characters, I could expand that and put much more detail in if I wanted. I didn't do that over 280, and I think I hashtagged everything as well, which I didn't on the other one. I'm using the same images, but the text is a bit longer. So that's what I did, and I scheduled all of them for 11 o'clock each day. You can see they are scheduled, but they are now done. And I also got a message from Buffer saying your queue's empty, which it would be. That's week 1 done. These are in progress rather than ready to schedule or scheduled, because again, I need to go through them and I need to extend them and add hashtags and stuff like that. So that is what I intend to do at the weekend, and I'll probably only do a week's worth. And I'll see if people want things longer and more detail, or whether they just want like mid-range stuff. I could have gone through it all, but I thought, you know what, you're doing enough already. Do it 5 at a time. So that's what I did with that. I then decided I would rewrite all of these and expand them so they do have detail in for Medium. And the reason that I decided to add Medium in was when I do my Ship 30 cohorts, I automatically post them, or I have done up to now. I automatically post them to Twitter, to LinkedIn and to Medium. And when I did the cohort in October last year, I decided to do Scrivener. And it was because NaNoWriMo was in November. So I thought that would be useful, to put all my Scrivener knowledge out there. And there's one particular post that I put out on Medium, and it gets hundreds of views every week. It's one post, and it's about Scrivener. So I decided it would be worth rewriting these into a much longer format and putting them out on Medium. But I decided that I wasn't going to be in a rush for that. So all I've done is duplicate what I sent out in week 1, but the type is Medium. So again, I don't know if I'll be sending these out by type, but if I am, I don't particularly want to see it. So I'll hide that in the view. The dates I've left originally as they were because I've not decided when I'm starting this. I could start it on Monday, which would be like I added LinkedIn in last week, and this week I'm adding Medium in. But because I've got Twitter threads to write and atomic essays to write, I might put it off for a week. But these will be the same topic, but just much more detailed. It will be a proper essay for Medium. And that's because the audience for that seems to be on Medium. So that's why I actually added it in. What else did I do? All's pretty useless now, because if there's no filter on it, the titles are the same and stuff, and it just looks a mess. It's confusing. But that is what I was doing with it, and that was why. Now, each one of these, if we go to week 1, which we know is finished and done, each one of these has a graphic. Now, that wasn't part of the story. It kind of makes sense to me because I just think people tweet and it's just blah, blah, blah. You look at the ones with the graphics. I decided I would do it for at least a week. So each one of these has got a graphic. So I needed to create social-sized graphics for each of these. So this one is the question one. I thought at the end of the first week, I'll try some without. But then I decided, no, just keep putting the graphics with them. I decided to make the graphics square, even though on Twitter they don't need to be. And I think on Medium, you'd probably put a header on rather than a graphic. But I decided to do that because should I decide to repurpose them for something like Instagram, then they're already the right size. And once you get in the zone of that's the size you're working with, you actually get faster at it. So that was why I was using Canva. So before we go on to have a look at that, have we got any questions on anything to do with that, Mike?
Don't think so. Just go and find the questions.
So there's just a whole lot more information in there. I don't know where I intend to take this particular database in Notion at the end of the 3 weeks. The idea is if we do it for 3 weeks, we will carry on doing it, which would be nice to think so, but it does take a lot of time. So we'll see how that pans out. I'll show you this when I've totally finished it and decided what I'm going to come up with. But let's head in here. So I mentioned briefly that I was using Canva for it. So I've demonstrated Canva before. I don't think we were using it as much as we thought we might. Would that be fair to say, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah. When I needed a social graphic, I would go and do it. But, it's far easier to just post on social without actually doing that. But when you're doing something like this, which you're putting out 3 units of content a day, you don't want people to have to look at the same images. So I've been working on all different kinds of images, all to do with Scrivener. Those colours are the Scrivener colours, in case you're wondering, because I wouldn't pick pink, would I? But I've been creating lots and lots of them. To the point last week, I'd got to 100. Got to 200 this week. Like, wow, did I do 100 this week? But I did. It's not a race, but it just popped up and said, you've done 200. So the question became, why are you using it? Why Canva and not something like Illustrator, Affinity Designer, Publisher, or whatever else you've got? And the primary reason is speed. Now, I can say that, but there's a lot of reasons that make Canva faster than anything else I'm using. So I will go through those features, but I could wrap the whole thing up and say speed. Again, what I've done is I have created an almighty mess to show you how I would organise it all. So I opened a Canva account and they let me upgrade the team to 6 people for free. So that's why Mike's in there as well. So it's not as though you were paying not to use it, was it, Mike? You piggybacked on mine. So this is what you get on your home screen of Canva. So obviously you're starting at the point that you're going to create something. And there's a whole range of graphics, and it really is. When I very first looked at Canva and I had an account, it was like, yes, but it doesn't do much and I can do it faster myself. I would say now it can do that much. It would probably take me longer to organise it in a different way. So at the top is you creating new content. So you might want to try, and then it lists all this stuff that you demoed most of it after they had their Canva powwow. I can't remember what they called it. The one in Australia near that rock. Do you remember?
I remember it. With some very outlandish outfits.
There were, but the thing that was comical was at the very end of this powwow that they had, which was like an Apple event, a rah-rah event. At the end of it, when they said, can the employees stand up, 99% of the people in the audience were employees. At which point, I thought they didn't clap much considering they're employees, but never mind. So they added a lot of AI features and other features to it. But we're looking at what I created and how I created it and why I created it. So in the recent designs at the bottom, these are the designs, and these are in the order that you have used them. So the last thing that I did was Lola's squirrel.
There's Rock.
No, it changed its name. It begins with a U now.
Oh.
They renamed it for the Aboriginal people. Oh. It's got all. Oh, go and have a look, Mike. I can't remember the name of it, but it starts with a U. I can tell you that. So what I've got here is in the order that I created them, all the stuff that I've created. That's right. I told you it's quite difficult to pronounce, isn't it? Mm. Right. So this one, Lola Squirrel, is 16:9. So you can see the ratio underneath because that needed to fit on a slide. That actually didn't work as well as it should have done because I told it to export it with transparent background and it didn't. So that's another story. But the other stuff, like this organised post and the great courses, this is the stuff I've been creating for this content sprint. This was the 200 milestone, so that arrived. And I've already used some of these. This one went out this morning. I think this one went out this afternoon, something like that. This one went out at 8:30. But this needs tidying up. So I'll show you why I found this really useful. For a start, you have templates. So if I wanted to create a template, well, I want to use a template to create a new one of these. So let's say like organize, but instead of using that photo, I want to do it a different way. So the first thing I can do is go up here and you can search your templates or your projects. Now that's an interesting option because if you're looking for something that you've created, you need to make it your project. But if you're looking to create something new, choose templates. So in here, if I want to do something for organize. Oh, that did not spell right. I know. Crying out loud. I think the keyboard's having a fit today. Right, organize. I definitely, no! Oh, good grief, don't tell me the Z key's not working. You couldn't make this up, the Z key wasn't working. Right. So I'm looking for a template that's something to do with organise. So if, like this one here, 5 tips to organise your working time, I could change that to course creation time. I'm looking at this. Is the best image for that? Possibly not. But I would look through them and try and find one that either I liked or that I could change in some kind of way. Let's make it that one though, and we'll work with that. So some of these are available to free users. I'm a pro user, so I get access to them all. But you can look at it, and because you've looked at this one, you get some down below that may be better suited to what it is that you're trying to create. No, we don't want massages and stones and travel tips. So that one's fine as far as I'm concerned. So I've typed in one word, although I've did it 3 times, keyboard, and I've got this template. So all I need to do is customize this template. That will add a version of this template to my account, and it will let me start working on it. So if I decide I don't particularly need to change this image much at all, but I do need to change this, and obviously I'm going to need to change that. But it means that I can really quickly create multiple versions of something. So I don't need the sight at the bottom. That there, not bad. I think I would want to make that a bit bigger. So I'm just going to change it slightly. I could even change it, so I'm making it narrower so I can actually make it bigger. So with that lot selected, I can increase that. Don't want it that big, but that's not bad. Maybe 70 would be nicely there. Right, the other thing I'm going to want to do with that, I know that colour matches the image, but I want this to match my brand colours. And that's one thing that you can do in here. These are my Scrivener brand colours, but if I was doing this for MacBites, I've got a MacBites branding kit, my own personal one for Mike. What else have I got? Affinity Publisher, and I'm going to be creating an Affinity generic one, and Designer and Photo. So I've got these branding kits available. I will show you branding kits in a minute, but suffice it to say that if I want to change that so it's the right colour, in this case pink or brown or fawn, that is not going to work, and neither is that. But I think the fawn looks pretty decent, and that one looks pretty decent. I think that's a little bit too much. It looks like black. It's actually a very dark brown. But I could certainly have one like that. Now, the branding themselves, in the brand hub here, activate the brand hub. And if you've got your own templates, which I haven't set up yet, they would be at the top. It's telling you it's the Scrivener brand hub that's active, and you can see in here I've got the logos in all the different colours. So for this one I would probably want it to match that. So I do that and it brings that in. I take that down in size so it's around the 200 mark. You're not going, you are, aren't you? You're going to let me do 200, right. So I've got that there, and then I would find somewhere to strategically place that. Probably be better in the centre, but it'll do at the side there. And then I'm done with that one. So I can just go into there and duplicate that. And in this one, I can take this and I can colour it a different colour. The text up here, just change the text colour. Or, and this, it usually works, but it works better on vectors, and that has a background image. But you can shuffle it. And so it's made it the darkest colour. If I shuffle again, why you're not shuffling? You're not shuffling the text, are you? But it's shuffling this one, which I find even more interesting, because it's swapping out the logos, but it's resizing it while it does it. So for this one, I would probably, let's keep shuffling. There, I want the fawn one, and this one, I want the fawn to match it. So now I've got two of these. Now, this one's trickier to make multiple versions of, but I've got two versions of that. Right, we're not doing working time, we're doing course creation. So I will probably need to change this slightly. Oh no, that'll work, not bad. Right, so I would do something like that, then that is pretty much ready. Then I would go back. That will then be what I've recently worked on when we get there. Now, sometimes it takes a few seconds for this thumbnail to update, because obviously it's not 5 tips to organise your working time in blue anymore, but it will automatically update. Right, so I will show you one that I've got like lots of different ones from. So something like you have questions. So you see here, it says 2 of 10. As I hover over that, it takes me through the 10 different versions that I've got. And how I created that was I started off with one. And the one that I started with was actually green and yellow. It was nothing to do with my brand colours. And all of these variants of it, so we've got the darker one, then we've got the darker one with the pink, we've got the fawn with fawn, that's the amber, well, lemonish. All these different versions were generated from this first one. So all I did with the first one was what you saw me do the other one, duplicate it, go into Brand Hub, and just randomise it, just shuffle these. And it automatically is sorting out everything, including the logo. It's swapping out the logo so it actually matches, which I think is just genius. So I was able to create all of those different versions from the first version. So obviously the first thing you've got to think about is what are you get the text in there, get everything in the right place, and then start duplicating it and randomizing it from the brand hub. So let's go back there. Now you also have in here, and I've used it quite extensively in some of the earlier ones. Let's have a look. Where are we? Making me out to be a liar. Right, this Essential Skills one here. That font is the Scrivener font, so I had to upload it. So it's part of the brand hub. It's now part of the brand and is offered to me on that basis. Now, what I then did after I've done that, so I looked at the custom colours, randomising the colours. You've got your brand fonts, you've got your logos you've uploaded, and you can upload general brand assets as well. So if you had a range of photos, you could upload those and that would be part of your brand hub as well. But the beauty of this to me is there's no file management. So I don't really have to think about these files. I'll probably find them. Now, having said that, there is a very basic level of organisation. So if I take this back, some of these I haven't started yet. These were templates. I thought I can do something with those, but they're going to take a little bit more work. But you'll notice underneath that each one of them says Scrivener, of course, which is my Scrivener site. So what I've done is I've created them. I think that was the first one that I did down there. And I've got some of these as well, but that was the first one. So I created a folder to organise them. And all of these are in that folder. So if I wanted to see just my Scrivener stuff, as opposed to my MacBite stuff, which is also up there, then I can navigate to my projects. And in my projects, I will see everything at the bottom, but I'll also see my folders. And one of my folders is Scrivener, of course. I've also got my Christmas stuff that I've done. I've got 7 for MacBites. There was a weekly theme of introverts, so I did some stuff for that as well. I've made a folder for the Celiac Awareness Month, but I haven't actually put anything in it yet. So you can see in the Scrivener, of course, if I go into there, it's filtered for just the Scrivener stuff. But some of this, I don't need all of these. So these are just the Scrivener ones. But if I go back to in here, I've deliberately left it to show you how to organise it. So this one that I've just created, which now the thumbnail has updated, this one isn't that good in it, so I'll call it top tip so I know what it is. You can see it says Instagram post underneath. It's not in the Scrivener, of course, folder. Now this one doesn't need to be in the Scrivener folder, but some of these do. So these ones that I did last night definitely need to be in the Scrivener folder. So from the home where we are right now, you can do that. So if we take this one, you can go to the 3 dots and you can say move to folder. And the most recently used folders are available. So I've used these 3. So I'm sending it to Scrivener and then I say move. That's a lot of work when you've got as many of these as I have. So a better bet entirely is to go to projects where you have your folders at the top of the list, but move down to designs. And the difference in the views that you have here, when you hover over them, you have the ability to make multiple selections. So this one is for Scrivener, and that one is for Scrivener, and that one I wasn't too sure about, but I'm there. That one I've used. So all of these at the moment are not in the Scrivener folder, and I did that deliberately so you could see it happen. I can open up more, because I've got a lot of these that aren't finished, and then some are finished, some aren't finished. That one's finished. That was what that was based on, so I don't particularly need that one. All of these I want to move to the Scrivener folder, so you can see why there's that many of them. I do not want to be doing this manually. So I'm making a multiple selection, and then I use this move to folder option at the bottom, and I'm moving all 16 into that folder. And it'll take a couple of seconds, but boom, they will appear where they need to be. So file management aspect of it is you don't have to manage files at all if you don't want. But if you do, it's that simple and you can do it en masse. Now this one I'm not going to need because it was the wrong shape anyway. So this one, I can go to this and actually just move it to the trash. Getting it out of the way. And I think there was another one I needed to put in the trash. I wasn't using that one either. But I might do in the future, so I'll leave that one where it is. Other than that, I think they are organised. So at that point, I'm going to go back to everything and see if I've got any left out there. I don't really. Now, this one is probably going to go in the MacBites, but because I'm only moving the one, I might as well just do it from there. So I'll move that to the MacBites one, move to folder. Other things that I've been doing this week, nothing to do with the sprint, but somewhere in here. So I'll go to the MacBites folder, so into projects. And once I can see the MacBites folder, I will go into there. I'm ahead of myself. Yes, I'm quite surprised as well. We got the 25 MacBites Advent Calendar posts already done for this year. Yep, I was surprised. This I used this week as a promo, so there's several promos in there. These were some Christmas posts I'd done. That's one that I do post on Instagram every now and then. And that was me playing around with an episode thing. So really with this one, it was the fact that the Christmas ones are done by now and they're already exported. But if I wanted some input on this, I would, if this was something else, if this was Illustrator or if this was Affinity Designer, I'd have to send it to Mike and then I'd have to send him a mail and all the rest of it. In here, if I want his input on some of these, it's a collaborative thing. He is in my workspace and I can give him access to any of these files. And he can go in and see these and we can both put comments on it. So there's notes in here, which I don't think I put any in here. I know it says presenter view, but to me that's just a handy place to put notes to myself. So if I want to update something or change something I don't want to forget, then I will put some notes in there to myself. And as I say, Mike can do the same in terms of feedback. So again, it's all about speed. It's speed of, in this time, collaboration and leaving notes to myself. So although I did have to create and upload, I'll go to the brand hub, in the brands in here, obviously the MacBites logos, my logos, the Scrivener logos, all of these had to be created in Affinity Designer. But that's become, for these type of design jobs, that's become, I couldn't do that in Canva. It's best done in Illustrator or Designer. Export them as SVGs and upload them to here. And then I don't have to try and find multiple files that are my source files and all the rest of it. If I open up this brand hub here, you can see that the 6 versions, I've got 6 versions of this. Got the pink one, the deep brown and the fawn. That's kind of a lemony cream thing. This is just off white and that is white. So I have all the logos that I need, but these were SVGs that were actually created in Designer. But it would take me a lot longer to use these from Designer than it would to design something in Canva. So purely for the speed, but those are the features that make it faster to use. So I know people requested that, so do we have any questions on that?
Couple of questions. Tracy says, I take it you have a pro account.
I do have a pro account, but as I said, the pro account is $99.99. And that was just for me when I started it. But within a couple of weeks, they said I could add another 5 people to the account and it wouldn't cost anything. So I'll admit I was waiting for that because I'd heard that sometimes that happened. Not all the time, but sometimes they give you like a special promo like that. So within 2 to 3 weeks, the promo happened and I said to Mike, right, you're in. So there was no need to pay for it because we'd need to be on the same team anyway. So that 2 separate accounts wouldn't be a good idea. So you can see that I've created a team, which is Giles Thomas. We even have our own little logo, don't we? Mm. Which we've had for years because we use that for 1Password. So yes, I do have a pro account. Right, which as far as we're concerned, you know, if there's 2 people in it, then that halves the price. But what else do we have?
Renee says, can you demo the bulk creation process mail data merge option in Canva sometime?
I can do, if you would like that. Not tonight, because we've got loads to cover, but yeah, Mike will put it on the list. And do we have anything else? No. Right, okay. I've no idea what's coming up next, so I've no idea what I need on the screen. But, oh yes, a wrap-up. So, the templates, the pro templates that are available, I mean, there are free templates available, but just the fact that there are templates available makes it faster for me to work with it. I didn't demonstrate this, but all the images that you saw on there were integrated stock images. Now, I have access to Envato Elements, which are fantastic stock images. But the time to search for them, download them, catalogue them, look after the licenses for them, and then add them to my file, and then edit it, not worth it. Not worth it. Unless it's a really spectacular image and it's got to be that one, it's far easier to just use whatever Canva have got on offer. And for this job, which was the content sprint, it was like, that's it. Good enough is good enough. Fast enough is fast enough, because I can't create 200 designs with up to 10 variants of each design in a week, and do everything else I have to do. So the integrated stock was a big help. You have a font library available from Canva, but if you have custom fonts that you've licensed for your particular brands, you can upload them and they will be available to you. Which leads us on to the Brand Hub, which is just genius. I love the idea, I love the concept, but I also love the fact that you can switch between brands instantly. So the Brand Hub gives you custom colours that you've created for your brand. Randomised colours, where you can take a design and end up with 10 versions of it just by duplicating randomise, duplicate, randomise, and you've got 10 versions. As I said, you've got your brand font, you've got all the logos for your brand, and any other brand assets which could include photos. There is no file management if you don't want it. If you want to put stuff in a folder, great. If you don't, that's great as well. It really doesn't matter. And that search, as long as you remember to toggle the search to your content, you will find it. So I would not like to be sat here juggling around with the files that this would bring with it, with my 10 variations of 200 designs. Yes, it could be done, but it just gives me another level. You become aware of how much. At the end of the day, when I finish working, the first thing I do is back up everything that I've done. And I know they could have a problem or whatever, but, it's highly unlikely. And in terms of what this is, if I lost it, I would recreate it. So no file management. And the collaboration, if I need to collaborate. So if Mike says to me, we could do that with your posters, couldn't we? But, you don't want to do those in Canva because you've only just mastered Designer. But you could. It would be easy to collaborate and also easy to put notes on stuff. So if I know that the 2023 Advent calendar, once it's done, I'll probably put a note on it, update for 2024, and I can have notes there. Now, obviously, in Designer, no notes. Photoshop's got notes. I'm not sure about Illustrator. Never really liked Illustrator. And from the Affinity Publisher thing, Peter's pleading pooches, that the notes to self system is clunky at best, but it's workable. But this is a proper note system, so I can leave myself proper notes. So, anything now I've gone over that?
Tracy wants to know how many of the things you're showing are available in the free version.
You
Things
do
like branding, uploading fonts, etc.
Right. I think you get one brand hub. On the Pro account, you get more than one. So I can switch between them because you get multiple ones. You do get access to the templates. Obviously not as many. You get access to the free templates. You do get access to the stock images, but not all of them. You get access to some fonts. Again, not all of them. Your file management's the same. Your collaboration's the same, I think. But the collaboration would depend, because if you've got 2 users on an account, you've probably got a Pro account. So you may be collaborating with yourself on that one. The notes is still there, though. And all of the export features are still the same. It's one of those services that, given the price of it, which it works out at, just under £2 a week? It's a bargain. I mean, obviously it costs us, we would halve that. We would say, it's 50 for Mike, 50 for me. So it's £1 a week. We did grossly underuse it when we first got it, but that was in terms of number. But when we went into it, we did have the Pro features. I mean, one of the number 1 Pro features that I use, let's whip back and I'll show you. This may persuade you to go Pro. When you are looking in here for a design, you may find a design, which I did do the other day. Let me find it. Where have you gone? That one. So this 8 circles thing here, this was what I did with it. And I wanted this to be 1080 by 1080. It didn't start life at 1080 by 1080. So that's what it looks like when it's loaded in. I changed all of these. So I wanted it to run around there. But that did not start life like that. Go back, I will show you what the template actually looked like, which I did leave there in case anybody asked. So, where are we? It was that one. So you can see this one. It says graph. It's not an Instagram post or anything. If I go into this, this is not the right size for me. It does give you a little bit more breathing space for the text, but you'll notice how tiny the text is. That was not the size that I actually wanted it. So I had to play around with it in there. And then thought, you know what, I need to make this the right size. And that is a premium feature, the resize option. But the resize option is really brilliant because instead of having to copy and paste this stuff into something else that is the right size, which it would necessitate grouping it and copying it and all kinds of stuff, all I needed to do was hit the resize option, tell it what size I wanted, and obviously this one is one I've been using, so 1080 square. Copy it and resize. So it will leave this one untouched, but it will make you a copy of it that is the correct size. So let's have a look at that. That does not, there we go. That is the right size. So yes, it's moved this up and I needed to do something with that. But what I did was I just grabbed the whole lot there. Once I've selected it, I can group it and then move it down. But it also meant, as I looked at it, that I actually had a little bit of wiggle room left to right. So I could make that bigger, and then I made the text bigger. And moved it down, so that's hanging off the screen. So the resize is fantastic. I resized one the other day. I can't remember which one it was now. It was a dark one. Let me have a look, see if it's there. It was a dark one. Which one were we? I think it could have been this one. But I don't know what that started life as now. But basically, I went up here, and I think I put my book. And what it came up with, I was quite surprised. So let's go and have a look if I can find the right one. Which one of these were you? Doesn't matter, because what it was that I ended up with was something I didn't even know it could do, which is a bookmark. So if you look at this graphic here, it says it's a bookmark. When you open that up, it gives you a preview of it, and you can customize it. So there's all these different types of bookmarks, and I thought, oh, you know, it's too narrow. Far too narrow. But I thought, well, let me have a look at it. I'll have a look at what bookmark looks like, because I didn't even know they did them. So once I'd hit on the customize, which I just have, let's have a think about it. There we go. I opened it up, and a bookmark has 2 pages to start with. It's got the first page, it's also got the back side of the bookmark. Only this one hasn't. This has only got one. Ah, there it is. That was the one that I used. Right, let's apply both pages. So this was the one that I liked, but I thought it's far too narrow. The back of it has no text on it. The front of it had that on it. But it was far too narrow. So I thought, let's see if the resize can help me. But I didn't hold out any hope whatsoever. But again, I wanted it 1080 by 1080. And when I resized it, I was amazed that they'd actually cropped the image to such an extent. It looked perfect. It was actually better than I was anticipating, because I wanted a book and I wanted it quite dark around the edges. I changed this text, but that is a pro feature. But that to me is a pro feature that's worth paying for. To be able to resize something that fast. You know, you're back to, yes, you could get stock images from Envato Elements, but the time it would take to make it perfect, it would take way longer than this, put it like that. So those are the pro features. So we got any other questions while I've got this showing?
No, that's it.
Right. I will move on. And I don't think I need, I do need that alone. Right. Let me move on then to the next thing, which is Whimsical. We looked at the first half of this. I have no idea when now. But we were doing mind maps and we did flowcharts. So Whimsical is an online service for diagramming. Now, maybe I'm becoming an online person, but I've used diagrams and created diagrams and trained people in diagrams for years. I started with Visio before Microsoft bought it, and I then moved on, when I moved to a Mac, to Omnigraphel, which is incredibly powerful, particularly on the iPad. Do you remember those idiots with the extension? They were arguing about the height, no, the elevation of the roof, and how tall this bit needed to be and whatever. And he didn't have a plan. He didn't have a clue either, to be honest. So while they disappeared one lunchtime, my new iPad had arrived. This was a 2015 12.9 inch. It was the first 12.9 inch iPad. And I loaded Omnigraphel on it, and by the time they'd returned, I had a full elevation diagram of the back of the house. I said, right, so I was right in the first place. That's there, this is this. And he looked at it. He'd never even seen an iPad that size, and he was mesmerised. So diagram's incredibly powerful to get message across. But again, when you just need something that documents something, so an elevation has to be absolutely precise, and it was. But if I just want to say to Mike, this is the process flow for that, I want it fast. And that's where something like Whimsical comes in. So we discussed the pricing. You get 500 units or blocks for free. You can use those with as many members as you like, and you can have 10 guests. You get your real-time collaboration as well. It doesn't mention on there that there's 500, but you can use those 500 blocks across as many files as you want. So it's not 500 blocks in one file. The Pro account is $10 a month, and that is everything that you get in the starter, plus the fact that you can then have more than 500 blocks. So that was the pricing. Let's go in and have a look at the second part of it, because the first part of it, as I said, was all diagrams. The second thing that it can do is project management. So this is a file that I've created that is my blog rebuild. You'll remember this. Well, you should remember this. We started this. Do you remember when, Mike?
No.
No, that's because you weren't watching it, but it was Coronation Day. We were otherwise engaged. So I had an original navigation structure, which I've got at the top. And I needed to change it. We actually needed to add more into it, so we're going to need to add extra elements. So I mapped out the original navigation using exactly the same options as we did in part one, which was just the flowchart shapes. So I did that with those shapes. Then I mapped out, let's get rid of this. And we could probably get rid of that as well. Right, now we've got more space. I then mapped out the new navigation. So I took some things away, I changed some other things. So the grey ones have gone, the amber ones are coming, they're not there yet. The other ones are there. So there was a lot of notes involved in this. When you're doing a blog audit, there's lots of notes involved. We also had issues with different pages having different sidebars. So what I did down here was I've drawn out a widget, I've not finished it yet, but I did this by switching the mode of the entire diagram. So at the moment, at the top here, this is showing the mode that you're in, and the mode that you're in is like a canvas mode. So if I bring this up, board mode, but you can also go to wireframe mode, which is what this is, and you can go to project mode. Now, the differences between these are what tools are available, but a canvas is a canvas, and you can mix and match. So at the moment we're in board up there, but you can see that I've got elements on here that have come from the UI bits of it. And it made sense to me to put the to-do items for these changes actually in here. So I've shoved it out of the way, and I've not finished it. I'm going to do that now. But this is part of the project management. So it's a Kanban. I know there's only one column, but it's a Kanban. So what I did with this was I added these elements to it, and the green ones are content that needed changing. So I reformatted the DevonThink post. It was like a wall of text. So I reformatted that into a text editor and pasted it back in. The planner pages for students wasn't on the site because the timings weren't done. So I did the timings and put that on. Then I needed to add the Devon Think series to the series element. So these are all the things I needed to do. Now, Kanban like this, when you're just looking at one column, looks a bit weird. But there are 5 more items on there. And as I click that, this empties and it loads it into this over here so I can see the whole thing. The red aspects of this are things that needed changing on the site but not content. So Mike's more likely to be dealing with the red aspects than the green. I would be reformatting this stuff and I would be adding the content. But if Mike needed to do something, like we were trying to change that tagline, weren't we? And it took us 20 minutes to work out how we got it up there in the first place. So these things are more plumbing than the green things, which are content. Now, all of those are done, and they are in this column of a Kanban. The beauty of having the Kanban in Whimsical and doing your project management in Whimsical is that you can change this. So you can widen that and see more. You could narrow it down so you're only seeing one. Little by little. Go on. Twang to one. Right, but what I could then do is zoom out and make that much longer. So you can have that as long as you like. So if you are used to doing Kanban where it's very structured, this might freak you out because it's really flexible. But it is Kanban, depending on how you look at it, that is Kanban. So I also have in here things that still need to be done. So if I move my complete just over there, because I'm in board mode, all of my tools are to do with board mode. That's why you have the option to switch mode up here. So wireframe is for content like this, but project is project management like this. So now my tools are slightly different. So I've got up here the ability to add a stack and the ability to add a card. So if this stuff's complete, then I need to add another column. So I'll add this here. That's the default size of it. I will add that there and then get it to match the other one. So I'm going to make it that bit wider. And you're not twanging to the right size, I don't think, but never mind. A bit too wide, isn't it? Let's try that. So I've created a whole new stack. Now, first thing to think about with this is it doesn't say what it is. So this is the backlog. So I think it's bizarre that you need to know where to click. There's no indication. But if you click in there, you can add a title. So this would be the backlog. Or to do, or tasks, whatever you want to call it. But to me, that's the backlog. Right, with that selected, you can then choose whether you have it larger or smaller or whatever. I think I made it large. This bit here would allow you to rename it. So if you forget that that's where you need to click, you can do that. Then in here, this is your column. So over here, you can add a card chat. So it looks like that is a smidgen too wide for that. Let's take it in a bit. Add a card. No, it still needs to be narrow, but this is the card. So some of the things that I needed to do, I needed to retire presentations, which was a section that I had. So again, that's content, so that would be green. I needed to... So I'm adding it from up here, but I can drag and drop from over there. It's far faster to do it from there. I need to retire slides. They're going elsewhere. But I also need to add some stuff as well. So I don't know why that one's gone blue. Let's take that back to green. There's the green. Now, that's the title of it, but if I want to put some information in it, I can add a description. And I can start a discussion with people that I've shared this with. And I can assign it to people as well. There. Right, so I've got those two. I now need here... What's the next thing I'm doing? I need to add a series. And I need the series to be Scrivener. So that one is actually ready to go. Series with an S. Right. And the other series is the Obsidian series when I've done that. So, add series. And if you're wondering how I'm doing that to get the little arrow, that is a text expander. Why is the S key not working? You're playing with my mind. Right, Obsidian. And that's going to be the backlog. So I'm going to zoom out of that so I can get these looking about right. Why are you doing this? Come on. There we go. Now it's all matching. That one would be green as well. And change that top one to green as well. But that is how I can add these in there. Now, when I'm done, so let's say I have retired presentations, then I can take that from there and I can put it into complete. So I can take these things backwards and forwards. It just kind of made sense to me for this particular job that instead of constantly referring back to the original navigation, that I had the tasks in here to do that with. Obviously that meant Mike needed access to it, but I'd rather have done that, I think, than settle down in Notion and then start making an almighty table, because then you start adding things. Again, this was just a case of like good enough is good enough. My original notes in terms of what needed doing, I was making these notes really quickly and it would have taken me longer to add them in here as to-dos. So my original list is actually on my daily page from the 6th of May, which was Coronation Day, and I just threw them down into Obsidian. And as we were doing it, I was like, that one's done, that one's done, that one's done. But the longer term stuff like these was like, okay, now I need to take a break from it. It's got the new imagery that I needed. It's got the new taglines and stuff that I needed. I tidied up the content. I'd taken some things away. That was good enough to leave it at that point and make a note of what I needed to do in the future and then come back to it. So we used to do that at the end of June, didn't we? But you've got no holidays left.
Yeah.
That's annoying. So probably the end of August will be the next time that I look at that. But I'll be able to come into here and instead of hunting around for, oh, good grief, you know, when was Coronation Day? If I can remember that that's the day that I did it, I don't need to do that because the task will be in here and ready to go. So that was the project management with it. Now, these things used to be called, it was either Post-its or stickies. But they changed it to project management. So they've changed the terminology. If you look at any of the videos, most of the videos that are available for this are at least 3 years old. And all of the terminology has changed since then. But the projects are what the cards used to be, the notes used to be. So you used to just dump the notes all over the place, and now you've got this ability to organise. But you can also mix and match. So you don't have to create a board and then a wireframe and then a project. You can see what I've actually got here, all three are together. So what I'd be doing with this thing over here, I needed to make a note of where the sidebar was coming from. And it turned out, and how this works in WordPress is, you've got a WordPress install, then you've got a theme on top of that. Then you've got library components. Then you've got widgets, and I've got a library component inside a widget inside a sidebar. So I needed a diagram because I was like following the trail and hopefully getting back to where I could actually change the contents of it. But I ended up, well, we were like, how have we done this? We were there, honestly, we were there at least 20 minutes. But we sorted it out in the end. So that is how I organised the project in Whimsical. Even though you would think of Whimsical for diagrams, so for the navigation, absolutely perfect. But for me to be able to come back to this and have the tasks with the navigation, with the widgets, with the instructions, it's all in one. So that's why I decided to do it that way. So have we got any questions on that?
No, but we've got a question going back to the other
Canva.
one, Canva.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy says, would it make you reconsider Envato Elements subscription?
No. Envato Elements is $14.99 a month, I think. It gives you access to all their content and all their training. But in terms of content, there are stock videos. There are InDesign files that I can use in demonstrations. So there are file types that are not available in Canva. So I would use Envato Elements when I need something. So if I'm demonstrating, you know, how to make a workbook in Affinity Publisher, it makes sense to start with a template that I know I can get from Envato Elements. If you only use the photos, then it may make sense. You could swap that and have change with Canva. So with Canva, it's about £8 a month. So it's almost half the price of just Envato Elements. But Envato Elements, it's things like videos and sound effects and other things that it has that, no, Canva wouldn't replace it in that respect. But that's probably particular to my job. If it's photos, then it could. Yes, there are some amazing photos on Envato Elements, but you've also got sites like Pixabay and Pexels and Unsplash that also have amazing imagery, and they're totally free. So if it was just photos, you could probably dump it. But for what I do, it's worth it for me. Do we have anything else?
No.
Right, okay. Let's get that down there. I do think... Oh, we're on to freebies. We are on to freebies. So this week was all the announcements from Apple, including Sonoma. It's Sonoma. It's stuck now, Mike. Which I looked at. Did you think of anything when you saw that, Mike? Because I did. Obviously,
No.
I was still reeling from the price of the hardware. But I saw that and I thought, the 2023 version of... Wait for it. The Windows XP wallpaper. Yeah. Yes, just look at that. That's the dark version. That just looks like an accident, doesn't it? Like they've not done it right. But all of these wallpapers in full high def, these ones were the 15-inch MacBook Air in various colours and guises. I think I like the green one on that. Are available free of charge. So they're all the high def ones. This one is the MacBook Pro 2023 version. I'm not sure I like those, but there you go. They're all available. As are these two, which are going to be the iOS 17 ones. So you got the links to put in, Mike?
Yeah, I'm putting them in,
Mike's
yeah.
putting the links in. There is also this, which is Apple Design Resources. So this is Apple who have created this. And it's for Figma. Now, Figma's got a free account, although I know Adobe own it now. But I think I've still got a free account. These are like the interface things that you need. They used to make them for the Adobe one. Oh, what was the Adobe? XD. And they used to make them for Sketch. But they've actually made native ones here. Can use for Figma, so anybody can use them in Figma. So and you also get I think the fonts are available as well, which is the symbol font, the San Francisco font, the Pro and the symbols. So these are available completely free of charge, which is most unlike them, but there you go. So you put the links in for those.
I'll put the links in for those.
Excellent. So are we ready for you?
Is it me?
It's you.
Okay.
Right, so let me get to where we need to be for that, which is not there. It's there. No, it's not. I'm lying to you. That's Obsidian. It's there. In a sneak preview of all the slides tonight. Right, so you're good to go, Mike.
I'm good to
I can
go.
see your desktop, which is never good news. Oh, that doesn't look bad. Doesn't look bad. Right, you're live.
I'll make a start. I thought I would make a change from doing Excel. I thought instead, but with a slant on the Mac. Now, if you're wondering how you can do that, because Power BI is a Windows application, let me show you. So what I have here is I have a file which is a PBIX file. PBIX files are created using Power BI Desktop. Power BI Desktop is a Windows only application. So you would use Power BI Desktop to actually create a report. You put some data in from one of about 150 different data sources, so Excel files or PDF files with a table in it, or CSV files, or SharePoint lists. There's web pages. There's lots of different data sources. So your data is stored in the PBIX file. I'm not going to go through how you get that data in tonight. And then you build the report itself. So you do actually need access to Windows as a starting point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this PBIX file. You can see I'm running it in a Windows virtual machine. So this is now opening that file, and it's opening it up in Power BI desktop, which is actually free. It's a free application. It's just that you need Windows or a Windows VM to run it. If I go to the data view icon on the left, that shows you the data, and what we're dealing with here is sales of ice cream. Where have we seen that before? It's my
you like your ice cream?
Yeah, it's my staple example, isn't it? And if I go to the first icon on the left here, this is the report itself. Now, it's not a completed report. I need to add some kind of value here for the total revenue, and I need to add something here for the average number of days to pay. And there's two pages actually to this this report. So imagine the situation. You have been passed a report, or the idea is that you will be passed this report. So somebody in your team with a Windows machine has gone into Power BI desktop, and they have partly created this report. And then they said to you, right, I'm on holiday tomorrow, and this report needs to be completed by end of business tomorrow. So you know how to use Power BI. Could you finish it off for me? And you're like, yeah, I could do that. Only problem is, I haven't got a Windows machine, and Power BI desktop only runs on Windows. And so you say, that's okay, because you can actually do what you need to do on a Mac. Let me show you how. It's all done through the browser using something called the Power BI service, which is basically powerbi.com. But what I need to do is I need to publish this Power BI file to the web server. If I actually bring across my browser window, so this is Chrome running on a Mac, I've logged into powerbi.com. I'm going to click on my workspace. A workspace is just like a container for your reports, and that workspace is part of my Power BI account, which I access through the browser. And there's nothing in it. There's no reports in it, so I'll just take that away for the moment. And what I'm going to do from Power BI desktop is go to the Home tab, click the Publish button, click on my workspace, and click Select. And it's now making a copy of this report and publishing it on the server. And then I will close this report down. And that's actually as far as I'm going to go with Windows. So let's bring the Mac over. And there are two entries. One is the data, and the other is the actual report, and they're both stored in my workspace. If I go into the report just by clicking on its name, then you can see what we're looking at is exactly what we had in Power BI desktop. The reason that you would publish the report is because you want other people to see it. Typically, the way it would work is that one person or maybe two people are responsible for building the report, and other people actually use the report. So the report designers use Power BI desktop, and the report consumers use the browser. So imagine that you are the CEO of this organization. You would be using this report to look at the information. But as I said, I need to actually edit this report, and I don't have access to Windows, but I can do it through a browser. This is a fairly new feature. So what I do is I click the edit button up there, and that puts the report into edit mode. And from an editing and a designing point of view, you can actually do pretty much what you can do in Power BI desktop. Does Power BI desktop become redundant? Can everything be done in the browser? Not at the moment. Microsoft are making great strides to actually improve what can be done in the browser where Power BI is concerned. Will that ever make Power BI desktop redundant? I don't know. I honestly don't know. but more and more stuff can be done in a browser, which makes it cross-platform, whereas up to recently it really was the domain of Windows users. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a card. When I talk about a card, this is a card here where it's got the 96,000, and this is a card here where it's got the 1,643. Think of a card as like a tile. I think they call it a card because it's like a postcard. And I could create a card from scratch, and that's actually what I'll do. I could copy and paste one, but I'll actually create it from scratch so that you can see how it works. So I go over to the visualizations panel here, click on the button that says 1, 2, 3, and that adds a card. I'm going to resize the card, and I'm going to position it exactly where I want it, which is going to be literally under that heading. That's just a text box, and there's my card. And then I'm going to open up the sales data 1, which is the name of the table, and I'm going to drag, this is average days to pay, so I'm going to find days to pay, which is a column from the table, and I'm just going to drag that directly onto that card. It defaults to a sum, so if I want to change that to an average, I come down to the fields area just below the visuals panel, click the drop down and choose average, and there we go. 32.28 is the average number of days that our customers take to pay. So what else can I do? Well, let's imagine I want to change the background color of this card or any of the cards. I'll make sure I've got that card selected, click on the paintbrush button, and for this one I need to go to General, open up Effects, and there is the background color. I can choose one of these colors, or I can go to more colors and I get a ton more, but I'm going to pick one of these colors. I'm going to go for this dark blue. Only problem with that is I now can't see the text. So I will go back to the Visual tab, open up Call Out Value, and change the color to white. I still can't see either average days to pay. I think that's the title. That's the category label. So I'll expand that and I'll change that to white as well. All of this, as I say, all of this can be done in Power BI Desktop, but 2 reasons I would do it in here. 3 reasons actually. One, the experience is actually really good. When you compare, say, Excel for the web, or Word for the web, or dare I say it, and you can tell me better, Keynote for the web.
Oh no!
Generally web-based applications tend to be the poor relations of the desktop versions, but this actually is really good, certainly from the editing point. So the experience is good. You don't need a window. And it's fairly lightweight. So what I mean by that is you go into the browser, you log into your 365 account, and it's pretty instantaneous. Whereas when you open up Power BI Desktop, it does take an age. It takes an age to open and load everything in, but this is really smart. Okay, what else should I do? Well, let's say I want to change the color of these columns in this column chart. So I'll click onto the column chart, and I need to go to, is it General? No, it's not. It is Columns. It's Columns, which is on the Visual tab. So open up the Columns section, and let's just let's change it to this blue here. There we go. You can actually have the different columns in different colors by switching on the Show All and then choosing different colors. Okay, let's switch to Sheet 2. Let's go to Sheet 2, or it's not Sheet 2, but it's the second tab, the second page. And we have a nice little map here. We also have a slicer. So the idea is that as you click these buttons, it's applying a filter. So I could make changes to the color scheme of the slicer. I could make changes to, let's say, the color of the circles in the map. So I'll click on the map and I'll go to the paintbrush icon. I'll open up the bubbles section and go to the colors, and let's change that to I haven't got a green there, so we'll go to more colors and let's go for a dark green. There we go. Okay, clear that. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save it. There's a save button there, so we'll save that. If I wanted to share this report with other people, because at the moment I am the only person who has access to this report, so I'm going to reload the report in just by reloading the page, and there is a share button there. So I click share. I can enter in the email address or the name of somebody and click send, or I can just click copy link and paste that into an email or a Teams message or something like that. And I can choose whether to give that person edit permission or read-only permission. So the browser actually doubles up as a viewing tool, which means that anybody can view this report. They don't have to have Power BI Desktop. If you think about where I work, the CEO is well known for being a Mac user. And if he needed to view reports, then he can't view the reports using Power BI Desktop because it's a Windows only. But if he has a link, he can just click on the link and it will open up the report in the browser. So the browser also gives you a lot more flexibility when it comes to permissions and security. So that's why best practice is design the report in Power BI Desktop. Although I say now design the report, although you have got to start in Power BI Desktop, but you can do a lot now when it comes to the report design in the browser. There was one other thing I wanted to show you, because it doesn't write this back to a PBIX file, and the PBIX file should be the single source of truth. So what you should now do is you should go to File and download this file, and what that does is that actually generates on the fly a new copy of the PBIX file, which you can then keep as I say, the single source of truth and replace the previous one. So that is a quick tour around how to edit a Power BI report. One thing I will say, because a lot of people get confused and they say, well, can't you just do this in Excel? Can't you build? Well, you can build your reports in Excel. You can insert slices, you can insert tables, you can insert images, you can have multiple pages. Why would you do this in Power BI? Power BI actually, I never thought I'd say this, but Power BI is actually in some respects better for data visualization and dashboarding, although Excel does run it a close second. But I think where Power BI definitely wins is the ability to have your reports running in a browser and have the security aspect around it. But I think Excel is getting closer in that respect. But that is it. That is it from me for this week.
I don't see any questions, but Simon missed you.
Simon missed me.
He was in and out, but he said he was missing Mike TV.
Yes, but Simon would only miss me for the spreadsheet side of things.
I know, but that was what he was missing.
Oh, thank you, Simon.
Right, let me head into there. My machine just... hopefully it'll pick up now we're not broadcasting yours. Right, let's do that. There we go. Right, so, advanced note-taking. It will involve some degree of backlinks, Kim, but maybe not what you're looking for. But frame your question and ask me at the end. Right. What we'll do with this is kind of a practical demo thing. This is what I genuinely do. So I'm linking together 3 features, stroke, plugins, etc. So advanced note-taking in terms of, you could use Obsidian, and have no links between the notes. It would still work just as well. That is actually what drafts used to look like and what Ulysses looks like. Obviously, the power is linking them together and doing things quickly. So this might seem quite long-winded to set it up, but once it's set up, it'll be much faster. So we've looked at the Templater plugin. We have a core plugin called Templates, but Templater allows us to take it a bit further. Now, when we looked at Templater versus Template, I remember saying, well, you might as well stick with the basic one unless you've got an advanced requirement. We are looking at an advanced requirement. The other thing that we looked at for the last 2 weeks was Quick Add. A lot of people dismiss Quick Add as like, well, all it does is add stuff, do it just as fast by putting it in a page. But if we link some Templater features with Quick Add and then some advanced Templater features, we end up with magic. If we then throw into that transclusion, which is a fancy word, it just means including A inside B, then you can create a system, which is what I do with my notes. So I'm actually going to build this up from scratch. You kind of know all these features apart from the coding, but the other bits you've seen. So hopefully with this example, it'll pull together the various things that we've done and it'll all make sense, she said. No, it will. Right, why are you not moving? Excellent. Okay, let's have a look. Better than it was, but not great in terms of the machine. But we will see. So we're looking at the demo vault. What we're after creating is every week I would have to create a new page for the MacBites After Hours. And I would have specific information about that. So something, it would include the date, the time, the title, the URL. Include lots and lots of different information. Obviously, I have that in Notion, but it's handy for me to have it in my notes. And actually, today, I'm presenting from there. That's what I'm actually looking at. So if I just bring this on and show you, so this is my real vault. So we're only really looking at half of this. So we're looking at the left-hand half of it. What we want is the date, the time, the title, the URL, all of this, and the embedded video. But we want it all automated, putting in the right place the lot. So that's what we're going to build up from scratch. So let's get that out of the way in episodes by the look of it. Oh, don't jump all over the place. Right, so I'm opening that one for reference. Okay, so we're starting completely from scratch. We are assuming that we've got nothing. So first thing I need to do is just to create a new file. Before I actually create that new file though, I'm going to show you what I've got in terms of files in the vault. I've got nothing in the inbox at the moment. I have tidied it up for this demonstration. I will be using two places in here. In my resources, no, I'm lying, it's not resource. Oh, yes, it is. Right, I've got my Obsidian folder. In my Obsidian folder, I have Templater. And in here, we created a template for After Hours, which was this one. And it's perfectly adequate. It looks pretty similar to the other one, but it's not automated. But we will leave that there. That's what we're going to need to be looking at. There's also another area in here, which is MacBites After Hours. So this is a folder that has got in it one set 96, 197, and an index. Index is blank at the moment. Those are the files we're going to be working with. Right, so let's go back to our template and start with this. This is a perfectly acceptable starting point for a template. What we would need to happen is we would need to ensure that when we, with this basic template, use Quick Add, it will use this template, it will generate a new file, and it will place that file in the MacBites folder. That was what we demonstrated. I also demonstrated it with the Our Parishes newsletter. So that at the moment is exactly the same. So if we go into here, you can see new After Hours, new newsletter, That is what that will actually generate. So if I click on that, this is what we get. Oh, it didn't like that. I probably deleted it. We'll sort that. Go away. Don't sit there. Please don't sit there. Right, away you go. I must have renamed that, so I'll have to sort that out. But that is what that would do. So let's go and sort what's not working. I renamed it. It was my fault. But I did rename it for a good reason. So in the quick add, this is what we're talking about. Why is that not working? And it's because up here, it was called MacBites After Hours, and now it's not. So I'm moving back. It is now called After Hours. So I'm going to take out the word MacBites. That should mean it's absolutely fine. Let's see if it is, or if it generates errors. Okay. So let's try that again. That's the template. I'll go into the inbox. We'll get rid of this. Right. So I am Option and Q. I am MacBites After Hours. It generates it. There we go. I then need to manually set the number, set the date, the time, but obviously the time usually 9 o'clock. A title, a URL, the series is in there. There would be a Notion link. I don't have an embed for the video at all. So this is fine as far as it goes. It's generated a page. It's named it reasonably, but I need a lot of manual work, and that's what we're trying to do away with. We don't want the manual work. So I'm going to delete that page and we'll start again. This time we'll use exactly the same template, which is this After Hours one, but we're going to make it more automatic. So to do that, we need code. Don't be frightened. It's going to be fine. In fact, yeah, we'll do this first. We'll get this sorted out first. So in here, where it says date, right, because we are creating this maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 months in hand, we don't know what the date would be. So we can't calculate it per se. But what we can do is prompt the user to enter it at the point the file is created. So we do that by taking out the word date. And what we do is put in there instead a line of code, line of JavaScript. So we're starting with an open bracket and a %sign, which sends the rest of it off, but don't worry about it. So we'll close that as well, which means we're going to put the magic bit in between those two. Now, the next bit I'm going to do is, you could say optional. I've tweaked the code, and I've tweaked the code because normally you would be prompted, and there's going to be 3 prompts here, and you would be prompted in order. That's not what happens in Obsidian. I have no idea why. So I have to do something called an await to force it to ask me the questions in the right order. So they are questions as far as I'm concerned. This one is question 1. And what I want you to do is I want you to await a system prompt. So I'm typing this in, which may not be the best idea I've ever had. On account of the fact it's not auto-filling, so I could be typing a load of rubbish. But system, oh, here we go. Am I going to see prompt next? Prompt, there we go. Prompt. And what I need that prompt to be, open brackets, open speech marks, and I want that to be the date. And that's going to finish like that. Like that. So I want you to prompt me for the date, is what that's saying. Now, we know that after hours is 9 o'clock, but for demonstration purposes, let's presuppose it's not. So the next thing I'm going to do is repeat that, but this time it's got to be 2, because I want to be prompted for this, secondly, after the first prompt for the date. So I'm going to paste this in, and let's see how we go with that. I'm going to paste. Not pay, right, that'll do. Let's have a look. Looks like it's matching. Awesome. So question 1 is stop and ask me the date. Question 2, stop and ask me the time. The title I don't sort out till afterwards, so I can ignore that. The URL I should know. So I need there question 3. So if I just paste this in, I can make changes to it. So this one, I want you to ask me, the third question is this one. And what I want it to be is the URL. the URL of the show. So I can click it and go to it if that's what I need. And that is what I want in the meta summary block at the top. But it's not stopping there. I also need, underneath that meta block, so about there, I would like to embed the URL. And I want it as an embed so I can actually see the thing. Now, how on earth does that work? Well, I need a prompt, again. And actually, it's the same prompt as the third prompt. Added to it. So I'm looking at what I need to copy here. Actually, it's the same. Apart from the end bit. Right. So I need it to prompt me again for the URL. So I'm going to have to do that twice. So if I put that in there, you're thinking about it, aren't you? Right. URL, but this would be question 4, not question 3. Right. Will that embed a video? No, it won't. What it will do is it will replace this code with the URL. What would that need to look like to actually embed it? Now let's look at what an embed looks like. So I happen to have a Typinator expansion for today. That's the URL for today's show. But it's not embedded. And so what would that look like if it was embedded? Well, it would need to start with an exclamation mark. And I have another expansion, which is mmurl, multi-markdown URL, and it would embed it. So it's an exclamation mark, open square bracket, close square bracket, open round bracket, paste URL in between the opening round bracket and the closing round bracket. And that is an embed. So, knowing that, what would this line have to look like to embed it? And what it's going to replace it with is the URL. That bit there. So we would need to add around it the exclamation mark, the square brackets and the round brackets. And if we did that, it would work. So let's go up there and we'll put the exclamation mark in, the square bracket opening, the square bracket closing, the opening round bracket and the closing round bracket at the end. And now that looks exactly the same as that, but instead of the URL, it's got a prompt to ask us what the URL is. So I can get rid of that line because we're going to automate this. We don't want that in the template. And the first thing, the first content that I would have in here is the week at MacBites headquarters. So when we've done all that, when it's prompted us for the 4 pieces of information it wants, we actually want the cursor to appear underneath the week at MacBites headquarters. And we have some code for that. So let's put more code in. I'm opening it up with the opening bracket and the percent sign. It's TP, and from there it's to do with the file. So move down to file and press enter. And it's to do with the cursor. So move down to the cursor and press cursor. And I want it to be there, which I do with the 1. I then percentage and bracket and close it off. So what that is telling it is to put the cursor here. Now, if you try that and it doesn't work, you may not have enabled in here, in templater, there is a toggle in here that needs toggling. Automatically jump to cursor. Oh, no, mine was working. You need to enable that so it does jump to the cursor. But I'm sure that was working before. We'll see. But if it doesn't work for you, that's what you need to do. So, we got lots of code in there. Does it work? Well, let's find out. So, for this to work as a template, it needs to be in the templater folder, which is where it is. We can see that over there. So, one way to activate a template is to do it manually. So, bring up your templates, choose a template, which is after hours, press that, doesn't like that. Oh no! And I was confident everything was right there. I was. And this was working on the other one. There's always one, isn't there? Right, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm getting 1, that should be 4. But apart from that, I will copy and paste one that I did earlier. It's probably brackets blindness somewhere, isn't it, Mike?
No, that's my trick.
Let's copy it from elsewhere and stick it in there. I'll need to make one change, but we'll do that. Because I know that one's working. So if this isn't working, I'm going to swap to a different database. Yes, it's called cheating. Right. Live demos. Gotta love it. Right, the week at MacBites headquarters. Right, let's try that one. Let's see if that works. All right, so it's prompting me for the date. That is indeed the first question. So I must have had a bracket wrong somewhere. Right, so what I'm going to do with the date, I will type the date and then I will explain to you why it's wrong. And you will, well, in fact, no, you're going to tell me why it doesn't work. But I will. Right, so there's today's date. Right, then I need the time. Well, that's 9 o'clock. Okay. Then I need the URL. Oh, that's tricky. Where's the URL? Well, I've got a text expansion, haven't I? After hours 198. It automatically corrects. Now, at this point, I'm going to copy that because I know the next question is going to ask me the same thing. But I could use the Typinator expansion again. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to paste it in. And I am done. And what that is doing is totally the wrong thing. It's putting in the wrong file, but never mind. If we look at that, that is working. It's working quite well, actually. Working better than I expected it to. But we do have everything that we put in. There's the date. That I wasn't expecting to work unless I had brackets in that I didn't see. I had brackets in that I didn't see. So I will show you why that's working. We've got the time that we typed in. The title's blank. We didn't want anything in there. There's the URL. This was already in there. And down here, we've got our video. So it is actually embedded. If we put that down, you can see it's just replaced code with the brackets. It's perfect, isn't it? Totally perfect. Right, I am going to undo that because it put it in that file and I didn't want it in that file. Right, this one is working. I wasn't expecting it to because when I typed it in, I didn't do this. But when I copied and pasted it in, I did. You'll notice that at the end, there are double brackets. The double bracket is what makes the backlink or any kind of link. So as I move to the beginning of it, you can see there's two opening brackets. The time does not have that because it's not linking anywhere. So that's why the date is actually working. Now, the problem with this at the moment is when I activate it, it's putting it in the my active file. So I have to have created a file and we don't want to do that. And we know we don't have to do that because that's what Quick Add is for. What we actually want is all of this magic to magically put a page in there for 198. And we'll look at the rest of it shortly. But it needs to create a new page in the MacBites folder. How do we do that? I think we did have some of that working last week. That is to do with Quick Add. So going to Quick Add, we did have a new MacBites After Hours. And we did have that set up and it was working. So we make sure in there that that's correct, which it is. I did change the name of it, but we've since fixed it. So that's the right template path. Now, in the name format, what we've got in here, it's going to call the file that. We said down here, where is it? If that file already exists, increment the file name by a number. But that's not really good enough, is it? We don't really want it like that. The format doesn't have a dash, but this needs to be a number that we type in. But if we're generating this file in a specific location, it would be good if it was named already, and you can do that. So instead of it's going to be XXXX, we are going to put in 2 curly brackets. Now, we don't want a date because that's not the thing. We do want a value, and you've got 2 options for this. You could choose value, lowercase, in which case it will prompt you, but it won't tell you what it wants. If you use this one with a colon after it, you can say in there, let me get my notes on that, what you want it to be. So after this, I'm going to say, in fact, you can be clearer than that. You can say in round brackets, and the brackets doesn't matter, I'm just saying it would look better if the example was in round brackets. It will start with a 0 and then there will be 3 numbers after it, in this case 198. That will prompt us to do that as soon as we create this. So that's something that we haven't done before. The rest of this should still work perfectly. So we've told it where the template is, what we want the file called, and in here where to put it. And we want it in 2 areas, MacBites, MacBites After Hours, which is up here, areas, MacBites, MacBites After Hours. That's what we want. So instead of wherever we are, so I'm going to close this template down. Instead of wherever we are, opening up a file and generally playing around with it, no, we are going to use Option Q. We're going to say View MacBites. And it's going to say, please give me the show number. Okay, that would be 0198. It will then say, what's the date of the show? Now we know that date is today, so put that in. And then it wants the time, which we wouldn't normally need to do, but we will. Then we want the URL of the show, which is that, which I will copy for the next prompt, which is that. And we are done. And what we have then over here is everything done for us. The date is correct and is clickable. So the hover editor is showing you that date. And then we got the time correct. This is a link that will link you to it. There isn't a page called MacBites After Hours, but the series is MacBites After Hours. If there was a page for it, that would be lit up more, but you can see it's not created yet. Then down here, we've got the video. It's the video. It's done that perfectly. It's put in this. This is not working. I don't know why that is not working. That was working in the other one. It might need something, but let's get rid of that. But it's done the whole lot. It's put the file in the right place. It's named correctly. All of the metadata is sorted out. I would make one more change to this because this is a series of content. So this is just a nicety. You do not need to do this. I do this with series. So obviously I go to Second Brain, I go to Ship 30, Captain's Table. I have an index for those sessions. And I might think, oh, it was 2 weeks ago. And I want to get from the page I am on now to taking notes to referring back to the show from 2 weeks ago. Now, I could do that if that there linked to the index. And that's one way of doing it. Not too bad with the hover editor. I will be able to hover and do that. Case for a transclusion. So what I would do, let's get rid of that one. I think I can create next week's, but next week's isn't. No, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to recreate this one because next week's show is not live, so it will be unable to pull the video through because it doesn't exist. When it exists, it will be able to do it. Until then, it won't be able to do it. So, I don't know why that bit isn't working with the cursor, unless I've not set something in the templater, which could be right, because it wasn't working in my main vault, and now it is. It's just not working in the demo vault, so I need to work that out. But what we're going to do, this text here, I'll open up that. It's a blank page at the moment, but we do have 2 shows. So I'm going to create an index in here. So start with the bullet point. I tend to work backwards. So I would be putting in 197 first. So that's my backlink to 197. The next one here, and that is showing me 196, which is useless. Come on, you're thinking about it. This one I am putting square brackets in, and I am going to put 196. Right, so obviously this would go back to episode 1, but we'll work with the 2 that we've got at the minute. Doesn't matter how much we've got. So this is a standard note. It's just a markdown file, standard note. In my template down here, I'm going to lose this because it's not working properly. I will work out what is wrong with it, but it's working in my vault. So it's probably something I've done. I'm going to move down here, and what I want in the template is to transclude that file, which I know people go mad with. Transclude, panic. Right, you just need the exclamation point, the bang. You then need 2 brackets, and then you just need to say that file. That's it. Couldn't be easier. So now, I want my cursor there when that works. I would probably put before that a nice little line, so I know that that's my transclusion. But that is my perfect template, I hope. So, well, I'm going to close that down. I have nothing open. I am using Option and View to open the quick add. I am saying I want a new MacBites After Hours, and it's saying what's the show number, and I am telling it it is today's show, and I am giving it the date, and I am telling it that it's 9 o'clock, and I am giving it the correct URL. I am copying that for the next question, I am pasting that in, and I am good to go. And what I've now got is my information block at the top. I've got the embedded video, I've got the Week at MacBites headquarters, and under that I have the ability to go to any other page. Any other page that contains the MacBites After Hours. So obviously I've got 2 there at the moment. Mine in my vault goes right back to episode 1, and there are links in there. And that is how to do it fast. So literally for me, I've got a session, I must have a session some point this week. I've got Captain's Table on Wednesday, right? So how I would work with my own vault is I would go to Wednesday. There is nothing there, but we know that we do have a daily note template that we can put in. So I want the daily note in there. There's my daily note. Right, what I would then do is down here, I would put in the time of the event. I do believe it is 5 o'clock. So I would put that in, and I would then put on level 3 what it is. So Captain's Table, Mastermind, and it's not in capitals, woman. Right, Mastermind. Now, obviously, I don't have a template for that in here, but this is what that would actually look like. If there was any notes, I would put that there. Up here, I would always start it with what it is, and that way, when I look at them in the sort, they're sorted correctly. At the moment, we don't know what that is. I would probably put to be decided. Then I'll put the date at the end, like that. And that way I know when it was, because this is what I turn into a page. So that becomes a page, which it will do with double brackets. Now I'm going to use the MacBites one because it's the only one that we've done. But I am going to copy that text. So this page does not exist at the moment. But if I use my command key and we pretend that After Hours is Mastermind, I can go into there. What's the show number? Now this is going to be at the end, so I'm just going to put CT Mastermind in it. Right, and that's purely for speed. I don't want to waste time creating anything else. So I put the date in, which is the 14th. The time is 5 o'clock. Put that in. And the URL, I don't have a URL to embed yet, so I'm going to leave that blank. Just type that in as blank. And it creates that for me. Now, obviously, not correct, but imagine. That is really quick for me to do. I can go into here. I do tend to do it in my weekly review. So at the beginning of the week, I look at what sessions I've got and I make all the pages that I need. But on the basis, which did actually happen, this happened 2 weeks ago. There I'm sat in a session in Second Brain, feet up on the desk, you know, weekly review, or plan your week, one or the other. Plan your week, I think. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm done at 4. And she said, we'll be finishing a couple of minutes early today. I've got another session, so I thought, fair enough. And then when we got to 5:02, she said, right, you know, and we went through what we'd done and all the rest of it. And she said, I'm going straight into the express session. Feet dragged off the desk. I thought, just a minute, that's at 10 o'clock. That's 6 hours away. And I realised she'd moved it. So I had the page and the notes and stuff. It was totally in the wrong place. So I was quickly able to just, you know, command and Q, type in what I needed. By the top of the hour, I was in a new session, new page, and I was raring to go with everything that I needed because it's there as a template. The template is there. All I got to do is fill in the blanks, and it's really quick. So that is how I do it. So I know when you've looked at Obsidian before, and it's like, oh, you've got to put this in and this and this and this and this. You've got the backlink, you've got the time, you've got this, you've got that. But you can automate the whole thing. So we did it piece by piece. We looked at Templater, then we looked at Quick Add. Now we've added in prompts in Templater and linked the whole lot together, and that is how I managed to get all of these notes really fast. That's how I do it. So do we have any questions on that?
Only one question from D, who says, do you know how to code Elaine?
I do. I do, in various languages. Started off in, on my Sinclair Spectrum with Basic, Sinclair Basic. And then worked up, we did VB, we do VBA, don't we? That's JavaScript. So, yes, I do. It's not something I particularly enjoy. Do you remember that code we needed in July 2014? We were doing some work on WordPress, and we needed some code, and I had no idea what this code needed to look like. If you can imagine trying to order food in a restaurant in a country that you know not one word of the language, that's the equivalent. You're not going to, you're just hand gesturing, which doesn't work well in code. And I remember it was about a week after we lost Maya. And I just sat there and I said, Maya, help me with this code. Please help me. I've got no clue what I'm doing. So I changed like a comma and I put a full stop in, and it worked. So this block of code has forever since then been known as Maya's code, because there's no way I could have written it, because it wasn't a language that I coded in, and it just started working. Oh, that was amazing. Yeah, he liked his computers, didn't he? So yes, I do. Right, so is that it for questions?
Yeah.
Right, okay. And then do other magic. But before then, I am putting all of the stuff that I've done, I'll put it together in a guide. So we're going to have a guide to Obsidian. What I need to know from you is what you want included. So Kim's just mentioned backlinks. There is no such thing as a stupid question. There are just questions that need answers. So as I'm putting this thing together with each session that we've done, if you want me to cover something specific, then let me know. It doesn't have to be now. You've got my email address. Ping me on there and let me know. Right, then I need to do unboxing. I have an unboxing. In fact, I've got two unboxings. So first of all, I need to get the lights sorted out, and then I need to get the camera sorted out. So I'm going to move the iPad on the basis I might have to hang the camera off it, and hopefully it'll be about right. So that's going to be pointing up, isn't it? And I think you need to be pointing down. So if I hang that on there, what can we see apart from the backside of the fan? You'll probably hear the backside of the fan as well. Right, let me have a look. How does that look? I think we can make that work. Let's see if we can make that work. So I'm going to go to there, but apparently I'm not, because it's not letting me. Let's go on to there, and oh, you can see the fan. Right, can you see that, Mike? Let me know in a couple of seconds. Right, I'm moving that out of the way. I know it's pretty dark, I've only got one light on, because when the light came on, it's like being toasted, isn't it? We've got 4 GU10s. Don't do that in this heat. It's like a toaster. Right, so you can just about see that. You can see my screen. Right, which is which with these? I think that's the first one, and I think that's the second one. Right, so let's pop that there. We have an unboxing. Can we see it?
Yeah,
it's a bit behind, but I think we're doing okay. Right, so let's open it. Make sure you can see it. It's quite skinny. It's skinny for an unboxing. Look at that, skinny. But Tracy might like this. Right, let's open it. This is something that we talked about on Monday night at the Apple event. And I was saying that I had 3 pairs of these, not this model, that broke. So what I decided to get instead was these sports headphones. No, I'm not taking up running. That's not happening anytime soon, trust me. What I wanted was a pair of cabled Bluetooth. So I wanted the earbuds cabled around a neck piece, but I needed it Bluetooth. And they were to replace what's known as sleep headphones, which are really nice. They've got really tiny buds. They go right into your ears and they stay there all night. It's fantastic. Problem is they break. So I'm not paying £28 for something that will last me about a week. So I decided I would have a look at these. I think, wasn't there one more recommended? I think it was. They were on offer. These are £12.70, or they were when I bought them. So I thought I'll give them a go at £12.70 and we'll see how they are. Didn't really expect much, so let's have a look. Now I need scissors. Is this sellotape? Oh, for crying out loud. There we go. At the bottom. There we go. Oh, I think that's upside down. Hang on. That's the instructions. Is the cable thicker? Oh, it is. It is. And I've got adapters as well. And extra buds. And a charging cable. So I've got things in there. Let's open that. Oh, come on. I'm struggling with here with the plastic bag. Right, there we go. Let's dump everything in there. There we go. So what earbuds have we got? We've got different sizes of these. So let's line those up. I think there's 4. I'm assuming there's already 2 on there. There's 4 of those. And this is a charging cable. So it is charging with USB-C. That's unusual, isn't it? That's a bit on the short side, but never mind. Let's have a look at these. Ooh. Oh, now that feels really nice. That does feel really nice. I was expecting that to be quite hard, which was one of the problems. But that's really flexible. Oh, that might actually be comfortable. So let's get the cable out of there. Hold that through. And the other part of this that may or may not work is the actual buds themselves, because they are quite big. And I don't know if they're going to be comfortable. Right, let's have a look. Oh, and the other thing with this is, it was rather nice. This was what was causing the thing to break multiple times. The cables themselves were so thin, but they're much thicker. And this end, they clip together. They are magnetic. So if I get those anywhere near each other, they clip together. Right, I can now tell you that I've cheated. This is the unboxing of this pair, but because they were reduced from £26, I actually got them on Tuesday. They arrived on Tuesday, and I tried them, and they are fantastic. So despite the fact they are rather big at this bit, they are fantastic. So this pair is the second pair I got while they were on offer. So I can say they do work overnight. I've not found them uncomfortable. I would say they last about 12 hours and then need a recharge. So I probably recharge them every day. But that was what I got them for. I can see these are actually quite comfortable for walking around in, though. I can. Back in here and have a look at item number 2. Right. All of that. And an empty one for you, Mike. Right. Shall I put that over there? Or will it be in the way? No, it'll be fine. Right. Where's the second one? Here we go. There's the second one. So we've got any take first yet?
A luxury card store wanted to know what the make was. I'll put the link in the chat anyway.
Right.
So yes.
Now.
They're interested.
Right, let's open this one. This was also after a discussion on Monday. So it was a good job. Cost me money, you know. Monday did. Cost me money. Right. This was a discussion with Ceci, I think. And we were looking at alternatives to Apple stuff that's expensive. So I decided to treat myself, seeing as though my AirPods are nowhere near the latest AirPods. Nowhere near the latest AirPods. I think they're second gen, aren't they? I think they're a second gen. But I decided to give these a go. Again, they were on offer. So they were reduced from something like £40 to £20. And then there was more money off. So it ended up being £17.99. And I thought, you know, £17.99, it's rude not to. Plus the fact they look identical to the Apple ones, except on the front there is a charging thing. Now, I've had problems with my AirPods. I mean, you don't fare too badly with yours, do you?
No.
But sometimes they'll only connect to one ear, and then you've got to go through some hideous rigmarole to, like, repair them. And sometimes only one side charges. So then you have to take it out of the box again and pop it back in. So I decided I would have AirPods Pro that come with the plastic things, the rubber earpieces. I thought, can you get extras, spares? And yes, you can. That are more expensive than these earbuds. So I thought, just get the earbuds. instead. Typical, like the ones that Renee have got, the really expensive ones, you know, where they're about £80 for a new ear pad. And I just bin it and buy a new pair of headphones. Like that. So let's see if they're absolute garbage or not. Let's find out. Right, there we go. So let's get the scissors out of the way before there's an accident. Do you know, in my multiple scissors, I've also got what I use them for. This is the ear knot off the dog. Remember when we cut her ear knot off? So yeah, that's a dog's ear knot. That's why it's in there. No, it's like keeping their teeth. Right, so true wireless earbuds. Let's open that. There we go. And there they are. They definitely look about the right size. Let's put it like that. So let's open that. And take that out. Oh, 100% charged. That's fantastic. So there they are. I'm going to get them attached to my phone. And let's see how we go with that. So let's take them out. I've no idea of the performance that there's going to be trying to get them hooked up. We will find out if they're there. Let's have a look. Oh, they are at the bottom. So I've got loads of stuff on here already, but they're the A90s at the bottom. So let's tap that and get it connected, and let's play something. Wow, it connected in like a second. How about Reap the Wild Wind Ultravox? That's a good one. Right, let's turn that up. Oh, wow. Oh, that is so good. Happy to report they are equally as good as the Apple ones. They both connected instantly. They're both charged to 100%. They actually look identical to the Apple ones. Let me take one out. There we go. Now it started playing something else. Can you see that? I'll turn it round. It's sliding all over the place. Let me try it on something. I need something dark. How about the back of an iPad? Because that's... And I can still hear the music playing in the other one, and that is pretty decent. Oh, no, you see, I wouldn't mind losing these for £17 odd. Which is quite likely. One could disappear down the toilet. You never know. Whoa. They are as good as the Apple ones. I will pay Apple for stuff that they make that nobody else makes as well as them, but these are equally as good. Do you want to have a listen, Mike? That's the right one.
Yeah.
I'll put them both in.
Oh, I only ever use one.
Oh, good grief. Why did God give you 2 ears?
Yeah.
That's good?
That's good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Whoa, result. Result. So let's see if they charge when I put them back in, or if they make an effort to charge. Right, I've no idea which one's which. I think that them are charging. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, blessed relief. That never happens with the Apple ones. So, if you're into your Apple kit, maybe not for you. But if you want something that's affordable, then it's definitely for you. So pop the link in for that one as well, Mike. Again, that one had a discount in the UK of £2 off the already discounted. That couldn't... Needed more kidneys for that. But yet, that's pretty amazing. They were instantly connected as well. Let's have a look what else is in here. What else do we get in here? It says accessories. What's in the box? Oh, there is things in the box. What's in the box? Oh, it's USB-C. I think the only things that aren't now is my old iPads and my phone. So that comes with it as well. How much longer than the other one is it? Because the other one was a bit skimpy. They must have charging bricks or something. Let's have a look. A little bit longer than the other one. That looks about... Let's have a look. About 12 inches. So that one's not bad. I could plug that in to one of my charging ports, which I don't know if you can see or not. Let me just move some stuff here. And if I move the camera, that bit there, that's my charging thing. It's full, isn't it? But I do have another one on the other side, hiding behind the dog's brush. So let's pop that down. There we go. So yeah, that is pretty good. I'm happy with those. I'm happy. So it's like getting a new pair of AirPods Pro without paying for them. Yeah. I seem to be constantly fighting, trying to get them charged. But your experience may vary. Let me know. Let me know in the chat. Right. Right, we've got any questions on that lot while I've got this?
No.
Okay, right. I will switch back to that. Okay. Soft around the neck, so useful for what I want them for, which is for when I'm heading to bed. If you're wondering what I listen to what's that app called? Not Dark Skies. That was that program I used to watch. What's it called? Let's have a look. Dark Noise. Dark Noise is what I listen to. There we go, all the technical stuff. So, yeah, they connect great. They stay connected. I've not tried them with making phone calls and stuff like that. It is handy when I'm not using them, when I'm heading to bed but not actually listening to them at the time. The magnet thing automatically seems to just click together. And yeah, it does say 12 hours, so that's right. And there we go. I didn't even know that they clipped together until I saw that picture. The other ones are these. What make are they? Does it say? B2 toss. I've no idea. But there you go. So they connected straight away. They charged correctly. My Apple ones don't. This is the first time I've had one that shape. So my other ones were the same as the Rev 1. So definitely the older ones are the two, but the music was amazing. And Mike, who listens to his all day, every day, agreed. So they are the A90 Pros, which I will recommend. Maybe not highly recommend until I've tried them for longer. But 36 hours playtime. Oh, yes, like that. Right, so what have we got coming up? We are back next week. Oh, thankfully, it's not the 13th. Do you remember the last time we did that and it was Friday the 13th? No, it's the 16th next week and it's 199. So we're getting closer to 200 as well. Do is available on demand. You will find that on YouTube, youtube.com/ElaineGiles. You will also find it on the After Hours playlist, which you can find at macbites.co.uk/After Hours playlist. And of course, we love you guys. There is a like button there. If you have found anything useful tonight, please give us a like because it really makes a difference. You could also subscribe, and that way you would get notifications when we are going live. Wouldn't want to miss that, would you? There is my list at elainegiles.com/VIP, which I will be writing to at some point. With all this stuff on social, I should let people know what on earth is going on, shouldn't I? There is also the MacBites list, macbites.co.uk/MacBites-mail. That's where you hear about all things MacBites first and After Hours. There's also Slack. That is where we carry on the conversation. If you want to join us, it is macbites.co.uk/join Slack. That is if you are not already a member. If you are already a member, then you need to go to macbites.co.uk/Slack and you will be automatically logged in. But that is it for tonight. So, we got any questions or anything else that you want to share? Do you know what I discovered, Mike, when you were strutting your Excel stuff?
Power BI.
Whatever you were strutting. Boris Johnson's resigned.
I know, I saw that before.
I was thinking, you know...
I was thinking you better not go to the BBC site as part of your demo.
I was thinking, hadn't Boris Johnson already resigned? How many times has Boris Johnson resigned?
No, he's resigned as what's it?
An MP.
An MP.
What's interesting about that is Nadine Dorries resigned earlier today and she was very cryptic as to why. And before you know it, Boris is off. And you know what you can't help thinking? Touch of the Edwinas going on there. But we shouldn't say that, should we?
No.
For anybody who's not in the UK and has no idea what we're talking about, we used to have a Prime Minister called John Major, and it was around the time of Spitting Image, wasn't it? And Spitting Image was like a satirical comedy show. And if they painted you a certain way, that became you. You could not escape from how they labelled you. And they had him as the grey man. So this was like a puppet show, and the puppet was like blue. He looked dead. Mr. Boring. Mr. Boring was how they had him portrayed. Eons later, I'm talking like, must be easy 10 years after he'd gone, if not more, 10, 15 years after he'd gone, one of his MPs wrote a tell-all book. She'd had an affair with him. And we were like, what? He wasn't Mr. Boring after all. But nobody knew. So seeing as though they've both gone today, both resigned at the same time, and Boris does have a bit of a rep, doesn't he? Mm. Yeah, he's a bit of a mover and a shaker, is Boris. Whoa! Oh, I'm going to have to be glued to this that's going on now. Oh, my word. Right. Nice, I'm working back up here. Is there anything I need to say about these earbuds? Trying to catch it. Right, Renee says thank you. You're marvellous always. Thank you very much. And Kim says thank you very much. You're very welcome, Kim. Do send your questions in that you want included. Oh, Carol's ordered the buds. The sound was stunning. And the speed it connected. Yeah, I have to do some kind of incantation dance with my AirPods. I think they're trying to do a little bit too much. I reckon they could work really well for somebody who's got one phone, one iPad and one Mac. But if I bring my AirPods in here, they just get confused. In this room alone, I've got 2, 3, 4... We've got 5 Macs, 14 iPads and 7 iPhones. So yeah, they get a bit dizzy. I think that could be the problem. I'd rather they were a little bit dumber than Apple try and make them make. I would much rather they were, you know, I connect you and that's it. Don't try connecting to anything else. Leave it be. Walk away. Leave it alone. But, you know, that's Apple for you. They do like you. They do like to be rather clever. And that causes havoc here. I cannot have them connecting to my Mac at all. Because if it tries to do that, it cuts off the audio that I'm broadcasting or recording. It won't do it. Everything's going through the Bluetooth. So if I try to do that, I can Bluetooth to my Mac, but I need to Bluetooth via a cable. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I plug in a Bluetooth transmitter and then connect the headphones to that and do it that way. But they are pretty amazing, I can tell you, pretty amazing. Right, sounds like there might be a new party. Well, you never know, do you, Peter? You never know. I can't see him leaving and not coming back, because he always had the plan of coming back. He is a very intelligent man, but he acts stupid at times, and he's very good at it. He is very intelligent. He can play both ends off against the middle, as we know. So, yeah, I could imagine. I'm thinking, you know, the first thing that came to my mind when I saw that was, oh, he's not going to get into bed with Farage, is he? And I could see that happening. And now his honours list has gone through and he's knighted Rees-Mogg. I mean, oh, please. And Nadine Dorries was really, really loyal to him. And she didn't even get a sniff in. She got nothing. She didn't even get an empty Coke can pull ring or something. That's really not on. So I know she left with a cryptic message and now he's gone. Can't wait to read about this, I'm telling you. You can toggle to prevent them pairing. Yeah, I've done that, Renee, but sometimes it still tries to. I basically want them off on anything that I don't manually connect them to. But when you actually go through the process, it toggled it back on with Ventura, which didn't help matters either. I just wish that they... Like I say, it makes sense if you've got one pair of earbuds and you've got one device, and maybe if you've got two, you know, but it doesn't work in here. I'd spend half my life turning stuff off. So yeah, I'm quite happy with those. I will use them for the entire week and report back. But they look like the Apple ones. They are comfortable like the Apple ones. The sound's stunning, which is enough for me. I'm not spending that kind of money because, let's be honest, I need it, don't I, for my studio. Need to catch up with Kim and get a Mac Studio. And 3 monitors. So I'm going to need to grow some kidneys and livers first. Because I total that to what? 7,200 plus 3 monitors, which is $4,500. Do you think I should start a GoFundMe? Do you think that'd work?
Yeah.
Please buy me a Mac, because the one I've got's melting. Please do that. That'd be good. I think they should make that toggle a little bit more obvious what it does. It's like in hieroglyphics. It's like the other one. What's it? Well, what does that say? The iCloud one. It says something like optimize storage. What does that actually mean? Where's my data? What does that mean? Just put the stuff on this Mac. Don't put the stuff on this Mac. But optimize storage. Optimize it for what? Doesn't say. Doesn't say. So I took all my data out of iCloud and I haven't looked back. Apart from the fact that they've broken Dropbox, which is another cause for concern for me. But never mind, this is Apple. So I do mind giving them money for a Mac, but I know that I would get more done with a Mac than I probably would with Windows, even though a lot of my stuff is in a browser these days. But I'm not paying for silly things like cleaning cloths at £20 and stuff like that. They are just taking the proverbial. And the buds are getting to that point. So just like I did with when they brought out the ones that Renee bought, I mean, they looked, I believe they sound fabulous, but they're £550 and mine were $39.99. They sound equally fabulous. And when there's a little tear on the earbud, like yours are hanging off, aren't they? We just throw them away and we buy a new pair. Simple as that. And if that's not as green as Apple, I'm going to talk about the leases again. So Timmy, don't start, because I've got you by the proverbials over those leases. Oh, Carol's tempted by a curved monitor. I did look at those, the ultra-wides, and they do look pretty stunning. The problem I've got is I broadcast my main screen, so I can't broadcast something that's that wide. It would do it, but it would give you a huge black band at the top and the bottom, and then no one would be able to see a thing. So I like to have the main monitor be the one that I broadcast, which is why there has to be 3. Because the left one has my PowerPoint notes on it. The right one is clear. So it's got the broadcast software on it. So, Apple being green is too funny to Kim. I know, that's exactly how I feel. I mean, honestly, now they don't sell an Intel Mac. They can't kill off the Intel Macs fast enough. They've already said with Sonoma, it's got to be Stoma, it's just coming naturally to me, that there are features that pretty much everything they talked about doesn't work on an Intel Mac. And I appreciate if it needs a lot of processing power or whatever, but eventually it's just going to stop working. So, I mean, if I feel like that with a 2020 model, and we've got, was it Peter that had the 2012 model? These were fantastic machines, but all that's happening with them is they're getting slowed down because Apple want you to move to something else. But, I would move to something else in a heartbeat. If he had said, here's your 32-inch iMac, I'd have said, thank you very much, here's my credit card. In fact, I might have said, here's my credit card, put 2 on there. But, you brought out stuff that gives me grief. I now have to think about what to do with the monitors. I either get one of the Apple monitors or I get 3 monitors, but they have to work in Retina. And how do I test that? I can't do that. So now I have to stop and I have to think. And guess what happens? I'm like, oh, that's interesting. £7,200, not buying that. And I'm done. But he could have had money off me if he'd brought in what I wanted. And the one thing I didn't mention with that Mac Pro, the wheels are still available at the bargain basement price of £400. £100 a wheel. I could probably buy a car for £400, couldn't I? With the ones I drive. Seriously, £400 for the wheels. But that's a lot cheaper than, was it 7 or 800?
I think it was 7, wasn't it?
It was obscene, and 400 is just as obscene. It's just not quite as obscene. So if you want it on wheels. But, I looked at that Mac Pro and I thought, look at the fans on it. It must sound like Concorde taking off. And yet, aren't these things supposed to run silent? So that was a bit concerning. But that wouldn't fit on the credit card, I'm afraid. No, I'd have to glue 2 of them together for that. But never mind. I will have to do something about it. I would do it imminently if it was easier. But I'd have to think about the cables that the monitor supported. Oh, it would just be a nightmare. I just want to create. Just let me create, Timmy. Let's see how that happens. Right. Okay. What's the OMG? Was that the price of the wheels? That's Apple. It's a good job there's no wheels on the studio, isn't it? Is the studio silent? That could tempt me. I could put it on the floor out of the way. Doubtless, the cables. Wasn't there something about the cable was built in? Wasn't that one of the issues?
I think it was.
So you couldn't. I don't know if it went into a block, but you couldn't change. If something happened to the cable, you were knackered. No, I know what it was. It was a monitor. The cable
right.
was so that's no good to me either. Oh, Apple! I should be head of design. Once they've lost Johnny, they should let me in. That would work. Yes, the wheel price. Well, it's almost half what they used to be, Kim. Almost. Total bargain. I'm not buying them either. Wouldn't fit under my desk, I'm telling myself. It wouldn't fit under my desk with the legs on. So there's no way it would fit on with the wheels. But you look at the prices and it's just like, really? But do you remember when they brought the cloth out and it was £20 and it sold out? And you're like, who is buying this thing? It's a cloth. I've just bought 50 for £5. It's a cloth. It's the same cloth. That's what I'm thinking with the earbuds. I do not want to be having accidents with earbuds, and I cannot be doing the connection dance. And they connected instantly. They connected before I had it in my ear, basically. But for the fact I had to tap it, but I tapped it and it said connected. I thought, wow, I've never had anything connect that fast. So hopefully I was given good advice on those, and this time next week I'll be saying the same thing. Bye, 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 is what I'll be saying. Right, okay, so we'll head off and have some of Mike's ice cream, I think. So for the moment, it is good night from me.
And good night from me.
And we will both see you safe, guys.